like I said, so today we have the absolute pleasure of talking about something that's new to the EverQuest community, particularly the emulated EverQuest community. But there's something very unique about this server that's really bringing people beyond just us emulated EverQuest server players. This is starting to get into the realm of attracting folks that are playing on live, and that's Project Quarm. This is a very, very exciting thing that's going on here, and we are graced with the presence of. They may not appreciate me saying all that. Graced with the presence of Secrets, and Secrets has been such an integral part of the EQ emulator community for a very, very long time. And to my knowledge, they're one of the driving forces of EQ emulation and just kind of the strides that has taken over the several years that it's been a thing. And so I'm excited. I'm really excited to talk to Secrets about just this endeavor, and just what this is good. This is some good stuff. It's a great time to be alive, So I have exactly 1 o'clock my time. Actually, we're a minute over, so I'm going to now see if we are good. Secrets, are you there?
I am here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Now let's see. Are we good on my front? Of course, you never know when things are working or not working. So looks like we are good. Oh,
everything seems to be in order.
I see one thing that I need to fix. One moment, please.
Oh, it's the size.
There we go.
Size.
We are good. Nice. Okay. Well,
yes,
Secrets.
We are.
How are you today?
I am. How do I put this? I'm excited to be here. Big fan of your content.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I don't often call things into chat during my streams, but could we get some level up hype in chat for Secrets, taking the time out of their day to talk about Project Quarm? I know we're all excited. About this. I'm super excited. So, I want to be. I know we only have an hour, and I'm sure we could spend a lot of time talking about talking shop and everything. So I'm gonna. Yeah, we
probably will. By the way, we will, because I'm actually letting this go past the hour. I know you mentioned that we can definitely go past the hour.
Okay.
I'm not opposed to that. So.
Yeah, when we get to an hour mark, it could be. Let's get to, we'll see how things are looking, and absolutely, I want to make sure. I know we've had a lot of people submitting questions already, so I want to make sure that we have enough time to get through those. So, so with that said, before we get into full business mode, I'd love to just get to know about you. And just if you want to do a little introduction, tell us about who you are and what you've been up to, your gaming history, EverQuest history, anything you want to share with us.
History. God,
I know.
What do you take me for, an EverQuest player? You do, actually. So,
that's right.
So I'm Secrets. You may also call me E. I am basically a video gamer by heart. I have spent my entire life dedicated to game design, game engineering, effectively everything about video games. I started out with Sonic the Hedgehog, actually, with
nice
Age 2 on the Sega Genesis. It was 1993. I got a copy of Sonic. I think it was Sonic 2. What year did that come out? I don't remember now.
Ooh, yeah,
Sonic
that's
2.
Yeah.
I'm googling it just to make sure I don't misspeak here.
If I could just say that one out off the top of my head, I'd be pretty impressed.
Yeah, it was 1992 actually.
92.
So the year it came
Golly,
out.
Man.
Actually, the year after it came out. So look at that. So yeah, I've been around video games. Not that much later, in 1999, I haven't heard of EverQuest at this point.
Yeah.
But EverQuest did actually come out not too long after I was born. I was born in 1991, and by the time we started hitting, 2001, I was in elementary school. I was in 4th or 5th grade at the time. I had met some friends, and my friend's cousin had started playing on Povar actually,
Nice.
And we would go over there sometimes, and I'd see him occasionally. And actually, I don't know if I actually ever physically saw him, but I've heard of him. He had the AOL Instant Messenger, an AIM account. I was on AOL, so I added them. I was very scared to talk to people at that point. I'm like 8 or 9 talking to these people playing in video games, and ones that sound very organized. So, but before long, started growing up, and 2001, I started playing EverQuest. right at the end of Velious and right into Luclin. Actually, I started a week before the UI got basically defaulted to the Luclin UI. I
Okay.
stayed with the Luclin UI till they removed it in early 2003. Um, so yeah, that's actually where my humble beginnings began in EverQuest. I came in right at the best part of EverQuest lifespan, and then before too long, there was other expansions that really didn't fit my playstyle. I had moved
Yeah.
on to EQ2, played that for a lot of the time. Actually, I played that
Nice.
game way more than I should have, to be
Which server
honest.
were you on in EQ2? Just out of
I was
curiosity.
on Unrest. I
Okay.
actually have some. I have a friend that might be looking at this and saying, "Hey, I've been actually." That friend started messaging me and saying, "I'm on Varsoon. Do you want to come play?" And I'm like, "No, I don't want to play EQ2. I got this
That's
to
right,
work on."
Varsoon. Yeah, yeah. I forgot about Varsoon.
But that being said, I have nothing but respect for the Daybreak development team. They've made some weird decisions over the years, and we can get into this a little bit later.
Sure.
But it's not something that's irrevocably going to ruin their reputation or anything, in my
Yeah.
opinion. In fact, I think that it's actually awesome that 20 years, 25 years almost, EverQuest 25th anniversary is coming up soon next year.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable that this game has almost been out, out as long as I've been alive.
Right.
I'm 32, so you got to remember I was a wee child when this is all happened.
Just a young lad. And golly,
Just
I was
yeah.
gonna say I can't imagine like the developmental benefit of jumping into EverQuest at such a young age. Like, because I know for me, my language, my typing, my everything about just my grammar and everything was just refined to a completely different level just because of EverQuest. I have to think that you were above average when it comes to English
Let
language
me
and
tell you
whatnot.
one of the most. Let me tell you the one of the most embarrassing thing I've ever had to deal with. That was realizing that when people were starting letters with capital sentences, that's actually because they weren't actually typing that. That's because the EverQuest chat filter, which I didn't know how to turn off at the time,
Yeah.
started each sentence with a capital letter. So I just assumed that
Really?
people were very polite online, and ever since then, I've always associated politeness with a, um, it's kind of like a one sec, kind of like a it was mentally ingrained. But here's the embarrassing
Yeah.
part is I didn't know when to stop capitalizing the letters, basically.
Just
So
capitalizing everything.
I'm gonna do this. I love this server. This is how I used to talk at the. I'd put it in your chat just to show you.
Yep,
But
yep.
it, I didn't. But yes, it actually helped me form grammatical sentence structure. I was way ahead on reading in English, which is weird because I'm a software engineer now. But realistically, I don't actually have to know much math for what I do.
Yeah. Oh,
Google
thank
and
goodness.
calculators. Thank God for calculators, right?
Seriously.
So as long as I've been part of EQ Emulator, that's been about 2005. EverQuest Emulator itself has basically began in 2003. There were a couple other projects, Eternal Quest, Hackers Quest, and so on and so forth. The
Okay.
one that won out, so to speak, was going to be EQMU.net in 2003. They were also the ones that there was a little bit of controversy because a lot of the people from this community also leaked the Planes of Power zones before they were actually released.
Really?
And SOE actually didn't really like their content being leaked early. People were
I would
able to
imagine
see
not.
all yeah, I mean you're seeing the planes and they spent so much time on this and then someone just kind of, shows up there and, you know, that's it. You now know what the planes look like. You know what the creatures look like. So they actually got people to see everything before it all started.
Yeah.
So, how so basically 2005, that was 2 years after everything had happened with the emulator, basically getting into full swing. There are people like TCS MyWorld who started Project EQ.
Mm-hmm.
There's people that continued the work over the years. Basically, it's all kind of stemming from Show EQ, and that name is going to really
Show
irk some
EQ.
people when they hear it. Yeah, that's the cheat program
Yeah, I was
that
gonna
people
say.
use to see that. Yeah, very early on, a lot of the early packet work and the reason why we have so much information about, modern EverQuest as we do now,
Yeah.
that's just due to Show EQ.
You got it.
We actually, because they were able to collect a bunch of information coming into the client. Let's say you got experience. Now we know how much experience was sent to the client for that era. Now we know the mob locations. In fact, Nilbog and Project 1999 owe it a lot to a person named Fictitious Name, I think it is. They
Okay.
actually had early HP and AC and stuff collected from mobs, because way back then, mobs would contain that data. So we actually were able to, recreate EverQuest almost to perfectly and precisely, simply because Sony had left that stuff in the packets. And of course, Sony didn't like this at the time. They wanted the game to remain a mystery. And you see early interviews with people like Galanite, who was later created Rift.
Yeah.
And they would also speak constantly about how the game's magic was being ruined by people data mining, basically. And now data mining is a pretty much a large staple in games like World of Warcraft. You have
Absolutely.
Thoughtbot, you have a lot of different types of Thoughtbot became Wowhead. Thought was actually a bard in Afterlife. So
Okay.
you actually have all these people that from EverQuest that ended up making World of Warcraft what it is. I mean, we already know the two. I'm not going to mention their names because the drama and controversy surrounding them, except for Jeff Kaplan. Jeff Kaplan was a certain not safe for Twitch or YouTube named Bard in Legacy of Steel, who would post all sorts of stuff about how they were uncomfortable with how the Luclin and Planes of Power expansions had gone.
Yeah.
That so there is there's a lot of people that were early EverQuest developers, or sorry, early EverQuest players that later became World of Warcraft developers, and they're still in the industry to this day for a lot of them. The
Yeah.
main thing. Sorry, let me fix my hair. This is annoying.
No, yeah, you're totally fine.
Um, but yeah, that should work. Um, yeah. So effectively, EverQuest emulator had a very storied history, and I'm actually, you said I'm a big inspiration. I don't know if I am, or big contributor. I don't know if I am. I've been
Well,
able to find things out, but I don't feel like, even to this day, I feel like I haven't done a lot. Even though I'm in the process of basically making my dream of recreating, 2002 era EverQuest. I don't think that. Go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah. Well, so here, I'll rephrase it from my perspective.
Yeah.
I mean, I consider your name Secrets synonymous with EverQuest stimulation, and a lot of that was fueled along because you're an innovator, and you've come up with these brilliant ideas for some of these other projects that you've worked on over the last few years. That I feel like it's like, oh yeah, that's interesting. I didn't know that you could even do that in EverQuest. Even like just I thought there were hardware limitations. Hardware is probably not the right word to use, but just built-in
Software
like
or
client
anything. Yeah.
limitations. Yeah. And,
Yeah.
and you found a way to just bring something new and fresh to the scene. So yeah, maybe it wasn't pushing it forward at the beginning, but certainly just keeping it moving along in a refreshing, innovative direction. And actually, I wanted to ask you about that. So some of the projects you've worked on in the past with EQ emulation, what are some of those? And what is a brief description
The
of some of
last
those
one
you've
I
worked
worked on before this is going to be Chainbreaker, which is also EQ classless, if you remember that one.
on? I do.
It's basically, yeah, the original EQ classless 1.0 was actually using the same client that we're using now, which started out as does a battle royale work in any game? I decided to make EQ battle royale, which would spawn you in
Yes.
as a ranger into basically any sort of. You basically get a set of spells. You'd have a ranger, meaning that you could walk around the world, kill some creatures, get the loot, like if it was a battle royale. And then if you died, you were out for that session
Yeah.
effectively. And you can ghost other players and watch what's going on until everyone's dead, like a little PvP battleground. And,
Yeah.
that didn't really work out, because as I started to watch people play the server, they started to just kill creatures, and they found it fascinating to just use the skills of other classes
Yeah.
all in one character. So I just was like, why do I even need PvP for this? It was also solidified that battle royale as a genre was just an excuse for an actual game.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about it, the reason people play EverQuest is because it's an RPG. It's a Dungeons and Dragons tabletop style RPG that you can play online with your friends. And
Absolutely.
fundamentally, that's what EverQuest is. Uh,
Absolutely.
so so classless is kind of a continuation of that. During some other stuff that happened in my life, I met Alia again.
Hmm.
Alia was one of the first people that I actually interacted with on emulator. We connected very early, and we had lost contact mainly because we just both lost interest in emulator, me more so than Alia. But
Sure.
Alia had actually met me in 2018, 19 again,
Mm-hmm.
and we started to make a classless 2.0 server. And that server, basically, the philosophy was, let's infinitely scale this game. Let's make it so that you can never stop playing because it's an endless quest.
Yeah.
But let's also use familiar content, familiar areas for these people to actually play. So before long, we've had several iterations. The latest one being Chainbreaker. I've also worked on the normal fare of EverQuest servers. I worked on Project 1999 at one point.
Okay.
I've
I
worked
thought so.
on Valentalon Zek. I've worked on Rise of Zek at one point. I've worked on a bunch of different servers in between, but none of them really had me motivated or inspired in some way, except for basically classless EQ. It was something new. It was something that I knew always worked. Back in 2007, Alia and I had the server that we made together that mostly was Alia's design that actually carried the whole thing.
Yeah.
But people could buy stats on a vendor for killing creatures, and that was the whole
Interesting.
principle behind it.
Yeah.
That was called Edge, and to this day, the repository for Chainbreaker is called Edge. We've literally made it into a running gag that we're on like Edge 14 or Edge 15 right now.
Yeah.
But also, I still have a sweet spot for EverQuest. EverQuest, at its core, is one of the most incredible games I've ever played,
Yeah.
especially the classic version of EverQuest. You know that to be
Oh
true.
yes. Oh yes. I mean, I got to know quick hit. What's your favorite class?
Oh, favorite class. I actually like Bard and Beastlord, but that's
Bard and
because I
Beast
grew
Lord.
up I'll tell you why I like Beastlord. It has the ability to solo, but
Okay.
without being too self-sufficient. I've never liked classes that felt like they were cheating. Druid
Yeah.
felt like cheating. Necromancer felt like cheating. Uh, Anything that wouldn't be useful in a group, I didn't really like playing. I actually I found it fascinating the first time I ever played a cleric. I remember complete healing people in Dawn Shroud and thinking, holy shit.
Yeah. It's like it felt
It's
like
like, whoa,
yeah.
whoa, whoa. What is this
OP.
ability I just got? I just hit 39. My life just changed.
That's right.
Uh, so yeah, I would say any class or combination that feels like you're actually doing something, because this is a game where if you're a warrior, you're not going to feel like you're doing much, right? You kick, you taunt,
Right.
you
Right.
maybe change
Maybe
targets,
bash
you
or
proc
something.
on the targets, maybe
Uh-huh.
bash if you have a shield.
Yeah.
You're not going to really feel like you're doing much. I've always hated that about EverQuest, to be
Yeah.
honest. But there's nothing. But that's also part of the game design and why the game works so well. It allowed you to spend the time actually talking to the people you're playing with. You weren't just
Right.
queuing up for looking for group. You weren't just going back over to it. You were basically just going on to it and saying, "Hey, I want to group these people because I get experience. I don't care what class they are. I
Exactly.
don't care how much damage they're doing. I just care that I'm playing with them. I think they're cool people.
Yep.
I want to be able to talk with these people. I learned so much about people, even being 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, more than I've ever learned about people in my whole life,
I get that.
just asking them questions.
Yep.
Because EverQuest was a game I could ask questions and not be judged for them. They didn't know I was 12. They didn't know I was 13. They
Right.
didn't know I was 14. And the fact that more often than not, of course, people felt uncomfortable talking to minors, especially with all the content they discuss.
Yeah.
So there's
Yeah.
uh, there's something to be said about just that gave me insight to the world I hadn't experienced yet. And to
Y-
this, it's kind of weird how that I just said that, right? It's a gateway and a microcosm of what is actually in the world. That is to this
Right.
day what the games industry can be for people. I use EverQuest emulator as two things. One, initially it was to hone, own my skills and make sure I can learn engineering talent because I've always had a fascination for design, for engineering, and a passion for that. I just didn't know how to realize it. And then
Yeah.
on top of that, I also had a problem with socializing. So that was that's this will let me actually learn how to socialize with people. I mean,
Totally.
um, and then yeah, uh,
I'm
I
right
don't know
there
where
with
I was
you.
going with that.
No, no, it's
I didn't know
fine.
where I was going with that.
I mean, it's just
You
funny
know where I'm going.
because it's like I just EverQuest is one of those things, and exactly everything that you said is the same thing that I experienced. I remember reading the EverQuest manual in woodshop class instead of actually, working on things.
I would always get bullied when in school because
Yeah.
I'd bring game manuals to school.
Yeah,
Instead of
exactly.
bringing, actual textbooks or bringing a novel in, I just read the EverQuest fucking Primer Guide. I brung that into class a few times. The Kunark one.
Absolutely.
Big, thick
I
Kunark
have
Primer
that. I
Guide.
have that right up. Yeah, I have
I
that
don't
right up
have it
behind me.
anymore, but I have a PDF. I've
Yeah, good
digitalized
enough.
most of the stuff I care about. So
Right.
I had it when I was younger, though.
Yeah, those Prima guides are the best, and obviously the Kunark one is that's quality reading material right there. I try to read it to my kids before they go to sleep, at least once or twice a week. So they'll be ready to go once they're of age, unless they pull a secret. Like they might be ready now, starting at age 8. So
I mean, we were talking about it. They might be ready. You might as well bring them in now.
I might as well.
You know what? I told my friend who had just turned, I think it was 26 with children, who now has their kids in their teens.
Yeah.
From when I played EQ2.
Yeah.
I told her, you can finally get someone to do your trade skills for you.
Absolutely. Trade skills.
And now they can do all the kids are fascinated by what technology is. They've never seen this before. They've played with shapes for most of their childhood. Give them a way to match patterns and have a resort, or that dopamine hit from putting a bunch of items in a container and hitting combine and experimenting with different items. Eventually they're going to learn that these items connect to things. It's a tool for learning. Games are basically microcosms of learning tools.
Yep.
At its very core. They're also an addiction and some of the darkest things I've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, it can go both ways.
It can go both ways. It's your actions that determine what things are. So my fondest EverQuest memory, if I had to say,
it
was just going to be the wonder and bewilderment about the unknown. And a lot of times games will just, they'll stop doing that. They'll just say, oh, here's the on rails trail. You have to follow this. There might be other things you can do off the beaten path, but, and I'm not saying those games are terrible either. I'm saying that I've enjoyed Final Fantasy XIV story, for instance, because
absolutely.
But it's not the same as EverQuest. It's similar to EverQuest in the sense that you're grouped with a bunch of people. You have a shared goal, and you can talk with them and interact with them outside of the dungeon. But beyond that, you're not. There's not real sense of camaraderie. You're there to play the story first, and then you're also there to play the optional MMO elements. I mean, there is in the role play elements. People own houses and stuff, and that was actually Brad McQuaid, Bill Trost, and John Smedley's biggest thing when they were making EverQuest. They wanted to do things like that. The technology just wasn't there.
Yeah, and you touch on just the loss. I mean, it's kind of a lost art for MMOs these days, and that's the social element. We were spoiled with EverQuest. A lot of the old school MMOs, being social, actually talking to people, was just it was almost a thing. It was critical. I mean, you had to do it, and so fortunately for us, we still have these new experiences that are popping up, like Project Quarm, where we're able to socialize with our friends and make new friends. And so for folks out in chat, we're getting to know secrets some more. Right now, the Q&A, all the questions that you're submitting, that you have been submitting, that you submit, we're going to start jumping into those here in about 7 minutes. And so just be mindful of that in case anyone was curious when your question was going to get answered. But I do want to pivot over to, let's corporate buzzwords. Golly.
Let's make sure we have an all hands meeting to pivot over to this.
Yeah, that's right. No. God, man.
No, I know. I'm in industry. I'm legally obligated to tell you I work as a lead engineer on.
Sorry for the interruption, but Secrets, you are absolutely incredible. You've contributed so much. Thank you for all you've done, and do less than 3. And thank you, Larry, for this Q&A less than 3 long time fan.
That's awesome. I as you were talking, the text to speech decided to start texting to speech. So, but it was kind words from "Don't fret" to "Old chap" or "Don't fret, old chap." So, anyway, we caught what you said though.
Yes. Yeah, it's okay. The YouTube video will have proper replay value, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me try to adjust that, because some folks might want to try to say something without it.
You can always get a transcript later, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hey, while I'm working through some things behind the scenes real quick. Oops, let me see here. One sec. Of course, the technical issues just start cascading. Let's start talking about Project Quarm. So, this showed up on a lot of our radars. I don't know how, but maybe it was about 2 months ago or so. And suddenly there's this exciting Project Quarm that is checking a lot of boxes for a lot of folks out there, a lot of EverQuesters. And so I'm curious, how long had you been planning Project Quarm, and kind of what got that ball rolling?
So the Alcalibur project, it was actually an EQM accumulator that recently open sourced. This has been over a decade of work over many volunteers. There's Torvin, there's Elroz, Rob Reagan, Cave Dude, Speeds, who was actually passed away of brain cancer, I believe. He was actually a really close friend, and we lost him a couple of years back. I think it was actually last year.
Yeah. Rest in peace.
It might have been this year. I don't. Yeah. We had Haynar from P99 working over there too, and basically it's a culmination of a lot of talented people with years and years of parsing and experience to recreate an open source initiative. Unfortunately, in 2002 in 2015 or so, there was a project that basically forked because they didn't like the raid scene, and they closed sourced it, and they said, well, we're just going to wait till we're done Planes of Power. And for the longest time, I've had to adhere to that because I wanted it to be open source, but a lot of the people in the project probably wouldn't have finished it had they not, had full credit for it, and there was some things threatening that credit. So it's kind of selfish in a way, but basically we had to wait until 2023 when, in August 1st, I believe it was, the Alcalibur project had actually open sourced their entire project, and I said I actually was approached by a friend, Maze, who said to me, yo, we're gonna make a one-box server. You ready? And I said, yeah, it sounds great. Let's do it. and then he dipped off the face of the planet.
No.
I love Maze. But I was like, okay, this is what I wanted to do anyway. Even if he's not going to be running it with me, I still have the talent, I have the drive, and I have the initiative to get this done. Basically, he took his leave from it. I've moved my own, group of people in here. Torvin, Elraz from TACP, Solar from TACP. There's a bunch of people in the community that we actually got a developer from open sourcing this. And over the this is going to sound weird, but prior to 2 months ago, I hadn't really thought about this at all.
Okay.
I've just kind of been waiting for that moment where it open sources. But in terms of actually planning a one-box pop server, I mean, I've tried it over the years. It's just never going to be the quality I wanted to, mainly because I didn't trust myself to actually make it without having the team behind it. And any of the work we do on Project Quarm is going to directly benefit TAC Project, which means that this is the last time anyone will have to ever work on EverQuest as like open source, because it's open source.
Yeah.
We won't have to keep redoing the same thing over and over and over. People can audit it. People can download it. Even if I were to get hit by a bus and die, God forbid, someone can actually take every bit of the pieces. It's immune to, pretty much immune to being taken down because it's open source. It doesn't use any of SOE's code, which is also perfect. Yeah. And once we get the evolution box set working, which has the fixed mouse wheel, keyword mouse wheel.
Oh boy. Oh man.
But yeah, basically that's what set it into motion is TACP open sourcing. We got 2 minutes, so I'm trying to hurry up here as well.
Yeah, no, you're good, and we may go a little over, and that's fine. But yeah, thanks for being mindful of that. So then let's talk about some of the features and systems that Project Quarm will be launching with, and we can touch on these. I hate to make assumptions here. We know what everybody says about assumptions, but I'd have to assume that the good majority of you, if you're here, you at least know the basics of what Project Quarm is bringing to the table. But I don't want to just completely make the assumption. So point being though, you can share some of the features, the systems that are going to be at launch. And then I'm thinking there are quite a few questions that are submitted. I'm thinking that we're probably going to end up talking a little bit more in detail with some of these. So you take them however you'd like, but let's talk about some of the main features at launch for Project Quarm. Launching October 1st at what is it? 1 p.m. Central, 2 p.m. CT or ET? Or is it 3 p.m.
3
Eastern?
p.m. It's 3 p.m. Eastern. That would be 2 p.m. Central, 1 p.m. Mountain, and 12 p.m. Pacific.
Perfect.
Somewhere in the 6 to 8 range. GMT. I don't remember. European times are weird, but we do have European guilds, so they have to mention it for them too. Also, in terms of feature set, this is a one-box Planes of Power server. Think P99-ish, but with time lock progression that doesn't match each patch 1-to-1. I don't feel like going through, and this is just a personal preference. I have enough things to do in my life. My whole opinion is we're going to get there eventually. Maybe not for this initial launch, but maybe on the next time we'll have everything flagged. We'll have a whole community effort to actually flag everything for the proper expansions, and hopefully anyone sees anything wrong, they can just submit a fix themselves.
Sure.
The main feature though is that it's one box. It has raid rules that are hybrid, meaning that there's rotations primarily. However, there's also a earthquake system on top of the rotations, meaning that it will pick a random rule set, either first to engage, DPS rates, or it'll give the guild in rotation another mob. Everyone will have to adhere to the text that appears on their screen, and this allows for 66% of the time for some level of competition to happen. This means there's a first to engage, meaning yellow text will appear when you engage the creature.
Okay.
DPS race, which means you're just going to have to straight up beat the other person to the kill. And then there's going to be the last one, which is going to be, just to get a free mob. Everyone loves free mobs. So
I love them. They're the greatest thing ever.
Yeah. So beyond that, there's also optional rule sets. I know there's been plenty of people on Twitch making solo, self-found, or hardcore characters.
Oh,
and these are actual features on the server now. You can go up to a priest of Discord.
We love LevelUpLarry and
enable
secrets.
these just as you would PvP.
Thanks for this Steam and thanks for Quarm.
Now you've restricted yourself from grouping and being able to interact with other players in any way. You can type the word hardcore, and now when you die, you're going to be, hardcore, or you could do solo self-found hardcore, and just really, if you really hate yourself, you can do this. So, beyond that, there's going to be 9 months between expansions. There's limited changes per expansion. For example, Paynail is going to be on launch. It's not going to be 1-to-1 initially. We're going to have Mana Stone enabled for launch. The legacy items are enabled, but they will drop 50% of the time. You can only loot one legacy item per character, not per account, and you have to be above level 30. Once you loot the item, meaning that it will gate this by character ID and item ID. If you loot more than one Mana Stone, it won't even let you. If you can't loot it and the corpse opens up to the public, it's a free-for-all. Anyone can right-click on the corpse at this time, and then they can actually just take the Mana Stone for themselves once the corpse opens up at the 6-minute mark, 6-minute remaining mark on the corpse.
Did I hear that? Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. Finish up. Sorry about that.
Oh, no, you can actually continue. Sorry.
I was just going to say, did I hear that correctly? 50% drop rate for Mana Stone?
50% chance to actually spawn the evil eye, and then 50% drop rate. It's supposed to be high on purpose. I don't want people to have to really fight over this stuff. I feel like we're going to get into epics, and then epics are going to have most of their bottlenecks removed. I hate when you are gated by the ability in which you can click on something or how much time you have to put into something. I want to avoid situations like Farina Tomb and Neriac B, Neriac C, where you're going to go into that little hut with about 20 other people, and then you're going to wait till whoever FTEs her, and then you have to adhere to whoever got the first hit.
Those are just character building experiences, character building.
I suppose, but also I feel like they're also pains in everyone's butts, and I don't like that.
Oh, absolutely.
Imagine what happened on Agnar on EQ Live, where everyone was huddled just under this Swamp of No Hope drop, left-clicking on it, and it can only spawn once every 2 hours. There are people using MacroQuest and other cheat programs just to, rapidly grab that the moment it spawns, and that's not fun at all.
No.
They'd be setting up timers and show EQ just to instantly click it. It'll be like maybe a 15-minute respawn just to keep people going here, maybe even 5. I think the challenge should be in doing the quest, not in actually, worrying about what people are going to do. There are other raid rules and stuff, and we can go over them later.
Sure.
Beyond that, it'll go on to the Planes of Power, and certain mechanics like pets taking 50% of your XP while you're solo if they outdamage you, will go away in Luclin per the timeline. So
got it.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. That's awesome. Okay, so like I was saying earlier, a lot of submitted questions. So I think we'll jump into those and keep them coming. Again, if you little cheat sheet there, / Q space your question without commas if you can help it. I know I may read them a little funnily, but just know that it's okay. I blame the production crew. And I haven't seen anything come in that's not Project Quarm related, but all these questions should of course be related to Project Quarm. So if they're not, that won't be answered. So just be aware of that. So the first question that we have here, and again, quite a few, we have a question from Vanifak. So Vanifak asking, what was the rationale of starting hardcore at level 10 as opposed to level 1? So I know you'll probably expand on this, but just for, well, you know what? I'll just let you answer the question. This isn't me answering. Go ahead, take it from there.
Yeah, you get an answer for me.
I know, what is this? Golly.
Who's really doing the questions and answering?
Typical here? Larry.
Oh, geez. Okay. No. The reason we're doing this is because the first 10 I could change this before launch. I have no problems doing that. Really, I was lazy. I gated it by 10, and also the first 10 levels for hardcore are just some of the most painful. I really didn't want people to have to be frustrated with that. if you gate it to the same level at which people lose their corpse and items, you have less opportunity for, I don't know, something tragic going wrong when you've just made your way halfway across the Karanas and then you get one shot by Grimfeather. I don't know. I just feel like that's a rude thing to have happen. You might as well not have to remake your character or reset it in some way. Just go back, just make this trip a second time. There are plenty of things when you're level 1 where you can die really easily, and I don't think it's very fair to the players to, expect them to ever have to deal with that. So that's why it's at 10.
Yeah.
No particular malicious reason. It's just, one, I was lazy. I forgot it was gated to 10 because I thought the rule was set to something differently. We can change it, but I'm not really inclined to change it.
Well, I think you brought up a point that is very much a reality. And as someone who, we have this challenge on Project 1999 called Legacy of Vic, where it's hardcore from level 1, you die, you delete, honor system based, of course, not as cool as Project Quarm and having that all hard coded in. But the point is we had a good amount of people dying well before level 10. And as a result of that, we saw a lot of fallout, people losing interest and all that. So I see, whether it was intentional or not, I do understand both sides of the coin, so to speak. Like, there's value to just not having people get punched in the face and giving up, on something that you'll have plenty of opportunity to die past level 10. That's for sure.
Larry, I'd hate it. I'd hate it myself if that happened to me. Sometimes you just have to ask yourself, is this really worth putting in the game?
Right. So I think that gives people, you have 10 levels to kind of figure it out, and then by that point, then you're on your own. So cool. All right. Thanks for that. So let's see here. Next question coming from Retro Jim. Will we have an in-game map?
So, thing about that, when we get the Evolution client working, we will have in-game maps, but only once Planes of Power is fully completed. But this is contingent on the Evolution client. For the older clients, we're not going to support the map at all. I know there's things floating around there that will enable the map. If we catch you using them, they're going to probably nix your account, and we will have precautions in there to do that. So please don't. I'm well aware of what exists on the internet. I've seen some stuff. So Indeed. Please don't try and use it. It will end poorly. Maybe not on launch, but maybe 15 days after launch. Please stop doing that. If you're going to devalue the experience for other people, you're going to, like that.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Hey, couldn't be more clear.
There is a question I just want to answer directly. Does that mean nparse is bannable? No, that's a log file parser. Log file parsers are explicitly allowed.
So. Perfect. Yeah. No, that's good to address too. Perfect. There was a question that came in that had commas, and so I won't be able to display it in a fancy way, but I'll read it off here, and maybe you can just answer it that way. In beta last week, this particular person made all human monks reserve names. When you log in at launch, can you delete and remake those characters? So I guess Is there going to be a character wipe? I'm assuming so, but is there going to be a character wipe for those who've been in beta? Are they going to lose their character names? Are they reserved into launch? How does that work? What is their name reservation system?
I'm going to take the server down later today, probably around 8 o'clock Eastern. I'm going to query the playtime on average, and if the playtime is basically above a certain value, I expect it to be above 60, or sorry, below, or right around 60 minutes, basically, that you've played the game for. Anything above 60 is generally going to be reserved. That being said, if there's a character you've made a bunch of level 1 monks, they're not going to have their names reserved if you haven't logged them in and actually played. The reason why I've waited until we're actually making this determination is so that I don't have people cheesing names. I mean, not what I've just said, that there's going to be people
names. Spoken into existence.
I've spoken into existence. I've willed it into existence, which is why I just took a backup before this stream, because I know this is a thing. So, that being said, if you've logged in a bunch of level 1 monks and you want to get all these names, well, I hope you logged in and actually tested on them, because it's not going to really... Yeah. If there are a bunch of level 1s, I'm probably not going to look... I should put level 1 as a criteria. If you just logged in characters to reserve names of popular players, I'm also going to just... Let's say you take Zaid's name. Zaid's a very well-known TLP player. And Zaid comes to me and says, "Hey, my name's taken. You know what I'm going to do? I'm gonna name the person that took Zaid's name to please stop stealing names. And then I'm going to give Zaid his name." I've actually done that twice, actually, for different occasions on beta. So
I wish I had.
And I mean, that's maybe... Larry, if you get your name taken, you let me know. I'm not letting people.
I say Larry is just such a, I mean, I wouldn't even be upset. Like, Larry's Larry. I need to. I wish. I got to figure out like a name that I can
look. They had to take Mo and Larry first for me and Curly.
There you go. There you go.
You have to make it a reference, or else I'm not allowing you to reserve it like that.
That's
Level
right.
Up Barry.
LevelUpLarry. Watch out! The rebrand coming up.
The rebrand coming up. Couldn't get his name. So.
Oh jeez. All right. Well, good deal. Next question coming from Misfit 3R. I think I'm saying that right. Any chance for PvP zone or just arena/dual command?
I actually like the idea of a dual command or an arena command, or even an arena queue. Generally, I don't feel like EverQuest PvP is one of the most enjoyable experiences.
It's really not.
And like, I don't know if you played on Red at all, Larry, but
not enough.
It's kind of an abysmal experience.
Yeah, I mean, just the best of the best that I covered and even participated in.
So I'm going to be honest. It's not because people from that community are terrible people. It's because EverQuest is mostly, at this point, a soft game. Yeah. The mechanics for PvP, no one can agree on. The reason why we're not doing it ourselves and have, allowed people like Darksing and Gangster, we don't really need my permission to do it. It's open source. But Darksing and Gangster have been forking Project Quarm and making their own server, which is Reign of Thule. If they want to do that and they want to play it, that's literally why I've made the whole project open source, right? It's so that people like them can play the game. Also, it means that people like them can actually make a server that's, accurate quality for Classic. They have actually contributed the Classic CT and the Classic RunEI that's on the beta. So
okay,
people like them are not only contributors but are able to make their own server. That being said, you know what I'd like to do?
What would you like to do?
Remember that EverQuest Battle Royale thing?
Yes.
I'd love if we could have special events, or at least even maybe a permanent event after Planes of Power is all said and done, where people could queue up just for fun, and do things. Back in the day, Nilbog and I had actually worked on something for Project 1999. There might be footage floating around, there might not be.
Okay.
But there was an EQ capture the flag mode that we had made on Project 1999. Did they ever reuse it again, or did that get broken completely?
I don't know, but I need that in my life is what I do.
It was capture the goblin. We'd have a flag on each side, and people would instantly respawn. I had actually done the code for all this. I was still learning how to code, but they could actually respawn in the same zone as if they had teleported to their bind point in the same zone, like gated almost. And it would just let them, duke it out, and they'd have to defend the goblin. But unfortunately, when we actually ran the event, Bards ruined it. So it's like,
Bards.
I'd like to do things like that.
Your favorite
GM
class
events,
or one of them.
Yes, I love. Well, Bards ruin everything. We already know this.
That's
I
true.
played a Bard. That's how I know. I literally was. I was the piece of crap that was swarming over there and over there trying to get all the cats together so I could.
I've been there.
Them, okay?
Been there, done that as well. Yep.
Yeah. So, on that note, I actually wanted to mention that. I think it's cool. I think we should do that. I think that we should do it after we have everything else fixed up. I think that would be awesome.
I think that's awesome. See, again, innovator, love it. Well, we'll see how that plans out. We have a bit of time, of course, so we'll see. There's a question about the Mana Stone camp, and I think by this question was probably submitted like 5 minutes into the stream.
Fine. Let's re-answer it.
Yeah, if you don't mind just touching on that real quickly, we can get through that one.
Okay, Mana Stone will be 50% drop rate off of the Evil Eye, and the Evil Eye itself will be 50% chance to spawn. Reason being, we don't want people monopolizing zone spawns, and we don't want people basically feeling like they missed out on something. We don't want people being dicks to each other. Sorry if that's not okay for your Christian Minecraft stream.
You're fine.
I just want people to be able to get their Mana Stone because they played in the first 3 months. And eventually, yeah, the people can power level characters to 30. I'm expecting that to happen. But the 30 level requirement will curb the amount of exploitation that happens. You will have plenty of time to kill a Evil Eye every so often that drops it basically at a 25% effective drop rate. So yeah. I think that's going to be awesome. And I think because it's set up in a way that where you can only get one per character, you're not going to see people actively selling it until they stop dropping. And even then, there's going to be a King's Court casino that launches post-pop where you can trade, say, 100 platinum, get a little token, and rarely, like, 0.5% of the time or something like that, you might get a golden ticket, and then the golden ticket has a chance to reward you with a legacy item. Yeah, it's going to give you a legacy item you don't already have. So the whole point of this is to allow players to get legacy items well after the whole legacy items disappear. They might not have their value. You might get all the rubicite before you get a Mana Stone, but the important thing is you can.
Yeah. Gosh, I'm so selfish. Yes or no? Monks with the ability to wear rubicite in vanilla EverQuest.
Was that even a thing? I don't even remember.
It was, but it was there. I have no documentation of it. I just remember wearing it. Okay, we can move on. Next question.
Let me also answer on that. We're generally not going to change items. Okay. Items, the only change I'm probably going to make is make Ghoulbane tradable. Beyond that, I don't really have any desire to touch items. They're going to be in their Planes of Power state. Meaning that moss-covered twig has its own drop separate to the moss-covered branch. So we might have those dropping, but individual items that don't actually exist, we're not going to bother with.
Okay, perfect. The Schwartz asks, mobs still seem to be overtuned in Steam Font newbie area. Will there be another combing of the mobs?
Overtuned as in... I guess that's a good question. Generally, people are very spoiled by emulator combat formula because this one is actually accurate. P99 Live TLP have their own interpretations of the combat formula for a while. P99 started to correct that, I believe. I think Telon can actually answer that for me. I don't actually know their code. Haven't played on P99 in forever, but I know that for the era that we're emulating, TACP is significantly harder than I remember P99 or Live being. So if we're talking about the mobs being 2 and 4, that's because we're in Planes of Power and beta. But yes, this has actually been addressed. Elraz has actually gone in there and tweaked both the Nectalis and the Steam Font newbie areas. The other problem is things like Ferrot. People are misremembering where mobs were because P99 had actually more spawns. Telon, again, has been a godsend for P99, has started to undo a lot of this, because they actually had way more spawns in there on P99 than they're supposed to in these zones. They had maybe 200, 300 mobs, whereas actually in era they had like 183 maybe total.
Oh, wow.
So,
okay.
Yes, the Steam Font is also a terrible starting zone to begin with.
It's a bit rough.
If you want consistent mob levels, go to Achenon. I've also flagged that for the heightened respawn code. You can go down there to the Mines of Malfunction, and there's a bunch of level 1 mobs. That's going to be the sleeper strat if you want to play Gnome and get tinkering.
Well, secrets out. Secrets out. That's no pun intended, but yeah. All right, awesome. So this one, I mean, you know what? I'll let the question speak for itself. Will there be any quality of life improvements to the UI, and such as the better camera, or the whole camera situation?
Larry, do you still have the video that I sent you?
I do. I can get that going. Should I go and show it? All right, here we go.
Yep, go ahead and show it.
And you can talk to it too if you'd like, but it's playing now. There's probably a delay, so.
Yep. So in the Evolution client, which is Legacy Vikesh, it's a box set, meaning that you'll be able to use it if you actually have the box set. There will be a small server download, and then you'll be able to get it. This client allows you to have the newer Titanium era scroll wheel, And because it actually to have the titanium era scroll wheel and windowed mode, it allows you to not crash when you log out sometimes. It'll allow you to, you know, it'll I know that's weird how that's a feature, stability, but that's where we're at. The mouse wheel will also work. Kick and Lag from EQ Lantern is actually working on this client. Kick and Lag is actually one of the most talented people I've seen for reverse engineering thus far. Definitely huge talent, willingness to get stuff done. And of course, I don't know if you've seen it, but EQ Lantern has beta 3 analysis with a beta 2 analysis on the way. They've actually got a hold of the original EverQuest beta CDs, and they've done detailed documentation and write up on these. So I have high hopes for this, and I have high hopes for the Evolution client coming to completion. And if any of the people like Kick and Lag or anyone really get stuck on stuff, I'm going to work with them to make sure this gets done. This one specifically needs to get done. The jank camera lag and where your camera is kind of shaking all over the place, it's acceptable for launch, but ultimately I'd like to be able to go in there and fix it, because people are going to really hate this long term.
Yeah, well, yeah, I know that's been a topic of great concern from folks. I am not a Project Quarm apologist by any stretch of the imagination. I will say that I did adjust and get used to it a lot faster than I thought.
And I mean, technically, if you were to use the Trilogy client, it'd be the same thing, right?
Yeah.
So the other thing is, we are going to try light quality of life. You can stand when casting. If you were to cast in game, normally you'd have to stand first and then you'd cast. We have that in by default.
Okay.
WASD and arrow keys. I actually have to fix this to actually use the actual keybind we have assigned. But effectively, we're going to make it so that if you want to auto stand by moving, you can do that too. If you want to auto stand from moving on from a corpse, that's also available.
Okay.
The reason why we're doing this and why this is such a problem to begin with is because if you're doing that and you're unable to move, right? It just feels bad. It's something that people expect from the modern EQ clients that they don't have here. Secondarily, there's also some automated things that were introduced in, say, 2004 and later, like Archery's auto fire. Meaning, I'm going to implement this the same way we done on Classless or Chainbreaker, which means that you're going to just turn on auto attack. It's going to auto attack, and then as you get to the appropriate range, it will switch to ranged auto fire, but only if you're playing a ranger. Meaning that if you're a ranger, you could be standing away from the mob. It will switch to ranged auto attack, and then it will switch contextually, depending on your distance to the mob, basically to auto fire. And that's the way I'm going to design that, because I think that's just a better way to handle auto fire in general.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. Okay.
So Melody will also be in for bards eventually. I just got to write it. So Melody for bards, we've all, I'm not wearing them today, but I have copper compression gloves that I need because of multiple things, whether it be playing Guns the Duel, playing fighting games like Smash Brothers, playing a bard in EverQuest, and engineering for 8 to 12 hours a day to get work projects done sometimes. There's a lot of things over the course of my life that have done a number on these beautiful hands that have been abused by video games.
Absolutely.
So that's why I'm putting Melody in. Also, I feel like because it doesn't impact gameplay detrimentally, Melody in its 2004 form only let you twist 3 songs. Okay. If you missed a note, you still had to recast it. Being that the game's a lot easier as a bard, but if you want to get the maximum output from a bard, you'll make stop song, cast song, or cast 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 macros, because that is the optimal way to play a bard. Clicking and unclicking, casting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is going to give you optimal output for a bard over Melody.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, if you want to get your maximum bard on and you want to make the best contribution to a raid, you're going to turn off Melody. You're going to actually play the game.
Sure.
So, also, it's one box. You'll be more inclined to.
Yeah. That's a good distinction. Strafing in Quarm, is that a thing from Enzo 516?
Sorry, what was that?
Sorry. Yeah, I kind of worded that all backwards.
No,
is strafing
it's okay.
is strafing not a thing in Quarm? ?
You can hold control, and you can strafe on the keyboard.
Oh.
And that's basically it. You can use the right mouse button. There's no strafe keybinds, but the old style of strafing, unbind everything from Control A, WASD, or whatever other keys you need to use, and then you can strafe. That's a workaround for now. Secondarily, if you actually want to have a strafe keybind, well, eventually I'm hoping to put that in either on the Evolution client or the one we're in right now, depending on how much time I get that's free. Really quick, I'm gonna address something that Socratic Duck had said in chat.
Sure.
I want to make sure that people understand this. I am not going to go after you actively for things that you consider, something that you shouldn't be doing. If someone reports you for something that's clearly against the rules, we are going to actually action you. If you're saying hate speech or you're using something and you're actively harassing another player or using something that's egregious in public channels, I'm going to go after you. I don't want minors seeing things. I don't want people who would be offended seeing things. And I feel really bad every time that someone thinks that that stuff's okay to get away with. So I'm not going to actively go after you. But if someone's offended, if someone finds it offensive, we're gonna get you out of here, because I don't think that's right. We can mute you, we can suspend you, we can ban you. Because I don't think EverQuest is the place for that. Sure,
Right.
it's a game filled with 40-plus-year-olds, and a lot of them grew up around that stuff. Doesn't mean we have to continue it.
Absolutely. Yeah. No. Thanks for expanding.
Make sure you keep it family. Make sure you actually keep this all family friendly. I'm gonna put my foot down, because I can't stop you if you get reported. You are the only person that can stop yourself from saying such horrible things to people. Treat people with respect. You'll be treated with respect. That's the best I could tell you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Perfect. All right. On to the next one. Are you good? You need a
yeah,
breather?
I'm good. I'm good. No,
okay.
Let's keep it going.
Okay. I don't even know if we're halfway through, so
we're still good.
Keep them going.
Look, I haven't even touched my water yet. I should, though.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, stay hydrated. Okay, so the next one coming from Move Free. Will the old Mac version used on TAKP also work on Quarm? You may have touched on this earlier if I recall correctly, but yeah.
What's it called? The Mac version?
Was it?
I'm trying to interpret. If you're talking about the Macintosh client, no, because we have a number of custom systems actually added to the game. I personally think that that's not going to be viable. Meaning that if you're on Windows and you're actively playing the game and you're you're literally using mouse wheel and stuff, we can't get that. I mean, we could. It would take a lot of effort to go on the EQ for Macintosh server and the EQ Macintosh build for the game and say start adding mouse wheel. That's a lot of assembly to do. Secondarily, we're moving off the client to begin with. This is not supposed to be an Alcab recreation. It's supposed to be a recreation of one box pop era content. So
excellent. Are there any major class nerfs like Bard Swarming or Enchanter Charming, or are we staying true to the era? That's coming from Dregus.
Sorry, what was the question again?
Are there any major class nerfs like nerfing to Bard Swarming, for example, the amount of mobs that they can swarm?
I know what you're talking about.
Enchanter Charming.
I know what you're talking about. Basically, Bard Swarming is not going to be nerfed. It's in the era. It was even in as far as Legacy of Akesha, actually. As far as I'm aware, I'd have to look that up to be honest, but I feel like it devalues a lot of the classes if you were to change too much. We're recreating Planes of Power, right? Even if we had an Evolution client, we still want everything to feel relatively consistently throughout the game's life cycle. So in terms of things that we're actually going to be doing and things that we're actually going to be changing, we're going to keep most of the era mechanics around Planes of Power, class balancing stuff. We are going to have the controversial change that TACP did to archery enabled. For example, on the Planes of Power, there was historically issues with archery. Galanite, Scott Hartzman, had actually posted on one of the EQ fan sites, I believe it was Caster's Realm, saying that if Rangers actually functioned as they should, they would be the top DPS. Thorfinn actually recreated the thing where if a mob's in a corner, arrows get stuck, because this is what actually happened online. Sometimes Rangers would shoot arrows, they'd get stuck on the wall because the mob was too close to the wall. This is just due to how EQ handled collision. It wasn't in floating point values, it was almost in like whole numbers. So stuff like that is going to still be present because it would basically put Rangers, a class that isn't supposed to be on the top of the DPS charts, on the top of the DPS charts. And in fact, on TACP, logs exist, many logs exist proving this fact. So there was also the controversy of this on TAC project because the top guilds wanted to just run their auto fire rangers. They had 3-box and such, and one could argue that since we're not, worrying about boxing, that we could just, remove this nerf. Well, no, it would still make it inaccurate for the era because rangers would be on the top of every single DPS chart. So there are certain things that will be nerfed and be kept nerfed. There will be things that will be reverted, like pet XP, simply because pets are extremely powerful in Classic.
Mm-hmm.
Charm pets especially. If you have a single charm pet duoing with, say, a cleric, for example, and the charm pet's doing all of the damage, you know what that does to people? Makes enchanters the best XP per hour. This is fine when you start to get it to like Luclin, because by Luclin, this is actually when this was revamped anyway. By Luclin, you started to have solutions to where what was it called? Enchanters would, basically they wouldn't be as egregious as they were in Velious, for example, because you could charm, say, something in the mines in SSRA. You could bring that everywhere. You could haste it. You had the good hastes. You had Kodiak's Endless Intellect. Rangers had decent damage at this point. Wizards could, get critical hit AAs. Warriors had critical hit AAs.
Mm-hmm.
Paladins had Slay and Dead. Shadow Knights had improved Harm Touch. Shadow Knights had better spells. They had ancient spells by this point. Most people had a bunch of, Entov gear. They were killing Vulak. They were killing Emperor Shra. They had Bane weapons. There's a lot of different things that combined together to where Charm wouldn't be as impactful as it would be in Classic through Velious. So that is the reasoning we might nerf some things, but not others.
Sure. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about raiding. Is there going to be any scaling to raid targets based on the size of a raid force, or is it going to be what you see is what you get, accurate to the era?
Basically, we're going to keep it accurate to the era. There's not going to be any raid scaling. There's going to be basically a cap of 72 players per raid. This is going to be consistent with PC of the era. There was a time where there was 60 people in a raid. I'm just going to not honor that. EQ for Macintosh had that, and they had to keep they're keeping consistently with the Mac client. Only 60 people could be in a raid. For 72 people in a raid, that was just that's just ostensibly better. It also means that when we start talking about raid credit and how many people does a mob take to kill, you can start doing Relic the Warlord with appropriate gear in about 72 characters, possibly maybe 2 raids of 72 players. So we're not going to really, add instancing or anything like that. 1, it devalues the world. 2, I think that it's going to be incredibly useful for players to be able to organize better. Really, for the contested mobs, it's going to use guild ID. So you'll have to be in a guild, really, to raid, which is in line with rotations. You can't have someone in rotation if they're not in a guild. And this allows people to actually not have their characters in all guilds. There's no concept of jumping in the rotation with a bunch of alts, because I don't think that's a conductive way. If we start seeing things where players are, taking double dips with rotation by making an alt guild, we're just going to disband that second guild and they'll have to do it on their main. So please commit to 1 guild. That's what I'm going to say, because we will start looking for you.
So that actually answers the question that was submitted right after that, around how rotation works and how it's going to be enforced in guild based on guild tags. So you touched on that. Nothing else to add to that, I don't imagine, is there?
I don't think so. I mean, basically, there are raid rules specific to the server. If you're interested, you can join the Discord. You can read up on them. I guess it is important to touch on one thing. If you ever have a raid dispute, we are going to only have Discord as the only place of contact. /petition in game will direct you to Discord. The reason for this is because Discord is just a better organized format for creating tickets, and it makes us able to actually, organize our thoughts better. We can follow up with replies. We can talk to guild leaders this way. We aren't going to be very public with decisions or actions taken against players. This is because mostly it's up to the players if they want to disclose their own action taken against themselves. We're never going to comment on that. I will instruct our CSRs to not comment on that. And even in the games industry, we have to swallow our pride sometimes and, just put our heads down and not talk to players about actions taken against other players. So with that being said, I'm kind of keeping that time-honored tradition, because really you should only be talking about someone getting banned with the account owner that got banned, right? So we're going to try and keep that the best we can, because I don't feel comfortable letting the whole world know how many people got banned. I don't want people to even know that their friend got banned. Players should be able to figure that out on their own.
Right.
That's why we're not really talking about action. It's negativity and detrimental ways of thinking that can effectively just ruin a server really quick. People discuss P99 CSR action all the time, and I just don't think that's really fair to people that are CSRs that are volunteering their time for free, to the point where they'll get in trouble for things that may be half truths. We're just going to just disallow discussing that entirely, because realistically, people are just here to play EverQuest.
Right.
So that's why I'm doing that.
All right. Where is this? Where's the server being hosted from?
Currently, it's in Phoenix, Arizona, I believe. It's going to be moved to Ashburn, Virginia before launch. We have a 51 gigahertz, 10 core, 20 thread machine that's going to be handling our server. Right now, we're on a very old Xeon that has about 2.6 gigahertz and about 4 core and 8 threads. It's not really great for beta right now, and in fact, it's struggling as we speak. So we're going to be switching this over to a kind of like a monster of a machine. We have a gracious donor who I'm going to keep anonymous that has been providing our hosting thus far.
Awesome.
I've asked them several times, do you need help paying for this? And they're like, no, I just want to see something awesome happen.
I love it.
And so I know the person. I would trust them with my life. Also, the other tier 2 CSR is going to be Elia, in addition to myself. Elia has run Chainbreaker with me, and I've known Elia since 2005, I believe. Basically, when I started the emulator, we started to know of each other. So I would trust. Elia and I have met in person actually this year. I went to go to where they live, and we actually, hung out for a week. That was awesome. And so that person's going to be handling all of our CSR stuff in addition to me, meaning that if I'm ever, it's going to take 2 confirmations to ban someone. Generally, that's not going to cause any. We're generally agreeable. We work together pretty well. So if something's in question, they might tell me, "Hey, you didn't look at it from this angle," and I'm like, "Oh, well, no, that makes sense." Or, "Yeah, you should look at it from this angle. This person needs to be gone or muted or suspended or something like that." It's nice to always have a second voice, and I would trust Elio on that compared to most people in the world. So
always nice to have someone you can trust like that. So
that is true.
Yeah, that's good. This may have been something that we talked about briefly before we started the stream today. But this is, of course, we know we've already talked about how this is going to be. The end game is going to be Planes of Power. Question has come up from Retro Gym around, will we see Yakesha content at some point in the future? Is that off the table, or is it
I think it's off the table, just simply because I don't want to deny people access to content based on the client they're using. Maybe we could do that someday. What does Yakesha add? Temperance, a couple others, one-off spells that are for lower level players. Really, the entire expansion was to bridge the gap of the fact that they kind of removed a bunch of things that were mass group buffable because they weren't affecting level 1 characters anymore. So a lot of the spells they added and stuff in the expansion were stuff like charms, which basically added small stat boosts to items. I don't think that's really conductive to the spirit of EverQuest. I mean, it was a cool little system, don't get me wrong. But Legacy Akesha, fine, we'll add Drogmores at most, and they'll show up at mounts for someone, or horse mounts for someone else that doesn't have the client. I mean, we could do that. I'm not opposed to it. We can have GM events that result in Drogmores or something like that. Gunthak and Dulak add so much for the new player experience. It was actually one of the last new player experience zones that was ever added to the game. Gunthak and Dulak both are incredible zones. The problem is I feel like the loot there is too high for what we'd actually be getting. Same with Vexar. Same with the revamped Acrylia Caverns. And you start getting to some custom territory when you start adding the Legacy Vakesha zones. So same with Eldon. Eldon, while it did add instances and a way to isolate yourself and get the max level, I don't think Eldon and Legacy of Kesha were necessarily great additions to Planes of Power. Some people feel like they enhance it and just make it better, but then they forget about things like the Split Paw revamp where the Elementals invaded, and all these augments and all this out of era stuff that basically decapitated early zones. So
yeah,
that's where I'm just. I got to draw the line at Legacy of Kesha. It's outside the timeline of what we're trying to approach here. I'm fine with things like the King's Court Casino or adding Drogmores. I think they're fugly, but you know, I don't know. Do you remember Drogmores?
I don't. But that's not saying much.
They're lizard mounts basically. They're cute in some ways.
Okay.
But they're terrifying. They're basically second to Draken for me for worst looking mounts in the game. So
yeah, I mean, back in my day, the extent of my EverQuest expertise stops at like Kunark. So, anything beyond that, mounts and all that stuff.
Perfectly fine.
Start to get anxious.
But let's continue on with questions. But I would say no Legacy of Kesha content for good reason.
All right, sounds good. Will there be server-wide out of character chat at launch?
Oh no! Why? No. So there's a reason for that. Chat channels came in with Planes of Power, so that's where they'll be added. You'll get chat channels by then. Even Titanium supported, UCS. And in fact, funnily enough, the first netcode that used the new netcode was the Universal Chat Service that was actually added to the game. So, in terms of things that is, added to the game and actually useful, that was probably up there on. You could even consider it quality of life in a way, but in my opinion, it ruined the initial experience where you had, say, Planes of Power. You're already in Planes of Knowledge. You got to know what's going on. You got to know when those MGBs are going out. Same thing with Luclin. So I would say that because it's easy to travel from zone to zone in Planes of Power, you should almost kind of isolate it just to Planes of Power. Nexus, you could argue that the Nexus spires are just glorified boats. So
yeah,
that's kind of where we're at.
All right. Oh, this is one that, well, I guess it doesn't impact folks that don't want to see them, but will Luclin models be available at launch? They
will. I literally have no qualms for people actually, modifying their client. If they want to put the classic skeletons in for the whole part of the game, sure. I mean, if they want to do that and they want to take the effort, I was actually going to add a GM command that players can use that will permanently flag your account to use the proper sizes for the old wolves. That was reported recently. Some people found ways to work around it. That this would remove, in its current state, almost every single Luclin or Planes of Power mob, but perhaps someone could make a workaround for that in the future. I'm being really open with people modifying the data in their client, not so much the memory of their client. Meaning that if you want the classic skeletons, our anti-cheat will look for certain things, but for things like, I know the bite you need to patch to get brown skeletons working. I know the bite you need to patch to get the gypsies working in Titanium. We can, read this bite of memory and see if it matches or if it doesn't match, just by the server requesting it.
Yeah.
So that means that we won't action people for doing things like that. Now, if you start adding your own windows to the game that aren't actually in the list of windows, then maybe we start to have a problem, especially if we don't know what they are. But for things like adding a brown skeleton, I'm not gonna go to your house and kill your dog over it. I'm going to allow it, basically.
Okay, that's well. Let's just keep going on. My side commentary on the Luclin skeleton models. It's not.
Oh, I love the skeleton models of Luclin and Classic. I grew up the Luclin ones.
Okay.
But those classic skeletons are so freaking goofy. I love them.
Oh, they're fantastic.
I would protect them with my life. So.
Excellent. All right. This one. Let me see. Didn't see the charm slot on beta. Is that going to be added when Planes of Power launches? Do you know?
Nope.
I don't know the charm. No.
Nope.
Okay. Easy enough.
Won't ever be in.
Okay.
Neither Glooming Deep. Get your Glooming Deep out of here too. Y'all know what that is on live. No Glooming Deep. No new player experience stuff like Glooming Deep.
Okay. Let's see here. Will there be an option to use scroll wheel camera without inverted inputs?
Yes, I'm going to try and get this done sometime post-launch. It's just, with launch happening, all of my time is diverted to running in circles and Kinos 2, and also actually prepping the server for launch. I had to flag all of the cultural stuff for either Kunark, Velious, or Luclin. Otherwise, you'll have Fierce Heraldic day one, and we can't have that.
Absolutely not.
Had to flag Blue Diamonds as the appropriate era. Had to flag Ice of Velious as the appropriate era. You know, that kind of thing.
Yep. Gotcha.
There's a lot of little tweaks that we had to do to get the game working. So
I can't even imagine.
So that's not on the priority for launch. Post-launch, I'm gonna have a lot of free time. I'm gonna be like, yo, we only have to deal with petitions. Everything's gonna be taken care of. Or that's how it will work in practice. And in reality, it's gonna be more stress. I'm sure.
Yeah. Right. Of course. Yeah. Let's hope for the best, though. Of course.
Same.
So I know we talked about show EQ earlier. And so, of course, the question around, are there protections in place to prevent, mitigate? I mean, just using Project 1999 as an example, I know there's workarounds, so there's only so much you can do.
There's going to always be workarounds in something like this, Larry. I'm not going to say yes or no to this question, because I'm not going to keep people really too much more informed than I said. On launch, you might get away with it, but after that, probably not. It's always a cat and mouse game for an anti-cheat in any game, commercial or otherwise. You might get around it for maybe one patch, but all EverQuest players have ever had to do is think they're getting away with it, and then they get banned in packs. So if they think that they're getting away with it, they're going to continue doing it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, historically, we've seen this on Rise of Zek. The first iteration, we had everyone basically detected. There was like 5% of the player base got nuked by my anti-cheat there. And the second iteration around, maybe like 5-6 players, not because they actually got past it, but because people feared it. People didn't want to lose their progress. EverQuest has the advantage, and Riot Games actually practices this pretty damn hard. It's deter, detect, and prevent. You want to deter people from wanting to cheat. You need to have adequate detection methods, both on the server and client, to make sure that people can't cheat. And then prevention to actually, preventative measures that make it harder for the barrier of entry for cheating. So eventually we'll get there. And hopefully, what I'm hoping to do is just keep this constant war against this, which I'm prepared to do if needed. I'm also kind of conscious of the fact that there are people smarter than me. I'm never going to be truly the most smartest, or I wrote the book on client injection basically for EQ emulator, but there's always going to be someone smarter than you, and that's just the reality.
The harsh reality.
And it doesn't mean you don't have to be humble or anything like that. That means you just there are people out there that will spend time trying to do something because you told them they can't do that. That's literally it's the MO of how I began my career in industry. People told me, oh, you can't get the new skeletons working, or no, you can't get the old wolves and skeletons working. No, you can't disable the client trade skill window for Project 1999. And can you open the client trade skill window on Project 1999 right now? No, you can't. Can't even get that to open. You can't open the maps, even though the Titanium client does that by default. I wrote the book on all that. Rogan just implemented it.
See, I told you were making some moves in the emulator scene, at least Project 1999.
I did a well, not just P99.
I know.
I made a on Classless. You should see the stuff I've done for that server. We've removed the client's ability to be authoritative on stats or HP or anything.
Yeah.
Technically, it's not authoritative, but it would try and calculate it on its own. I just made it so the server can tell you, here's your 54 stat labels. The client needs to just display these. There's actually even a bug that's in the game for almost, I don't know, 2 decades now, almost 2.5, where the mana will actually go up a little bit, then jump back down as the server corrects it. This happens on TLP on live even.
Okay.
So no one really fixed that. I fixed it, but that's because it always bugged me to see the mana value jump up and then just go back down repeatedly.
Yeah, for sure.
It's effectively just something we can do. Don't know if we should.
Gotcha. Yep. All right. PBAOE limit, long term. What is that looking like?
Okay, so I'm just gonna say long term, I'm not concerned about it as much. 80 is gonna be like the hard limit. There are people that have been testing this in beta. It works as intended. Okay. I don't want people to exploit the basically the exploit where you can just have all the mobs fade off of you. So it will just mobs will teleport onto you past 80 and instantly give you. This means even just looking at Plane of Fear, not many people even ran into this limit, right? So
That's good perspective.
Wyatt just said, join Daybreak, immediately fix mana bug, quit in relief. That has crossed my mind a few times, but also I think at this point I'm so far into the emulator that I don't think there could be mutual trust with Daybreak between me and them.
Might be a little tricky.
And it would be a little tricky. I'd have to work in person, and I don't know if I want to move out to San Diego on a, I don't know if they can pay me enough at this point. So
yeah,
that has crossed my mind many times. Plus, I don't know if they'd even think I have the skills. Like at this point, I'm a lead engineer. I do agile planning. I do everything that a lead engineer would need to do. But do they need one for EverQuest? Probably not. They probably have a technical lead that handles most of their projects across all their projects, especially in the EverQuest sphere. From what I understand, they had an all-female staff over there that's actually doing an excellent job at running their games. I don't want to ruin that. I don't want to come in there and say, "Hey, this is how we should do things now." That's literally rude to any company to do. So that's where I'm at on that. Sorry, I wanted to cover that.
No worries at all. Let's see here. So going back to some of the main features of Quarm, and when you gave the overview at the beginning, you touched on this, but just recapping on the expansions and the release cadence, how that's going to work, starting with vanilla EverQuest and going forward.
Vanilla, you're going to have 3 patches, and I'm just going to cover vanilla. If you want to see the rest, you can join the Discord and see for yourself. The first patch is going to be legacy items enabled, in Kazakhstan, in everywhere else. Basically, the whole purpose for this is to make sure the legacy items are in for 3 months. People can get them. It's going to be J-Boots. It's going to be Ring of the Dead. It's going to be actually Ring of the Dead just came in today. I just put that in there, so that's in now for launch.
Nice.
Cool. There's going to be Mana Stone. It's going to be Geyser the Deceiver, and then that's going to go out there. 1.3 into Classic, which would be 3 months. There is going to be the Soul Row armor opening up. And then there's also going to be, following the Soul Row armor, the Plains release. So 3 months in, you'll get the Plains. Then you'll get the Hull sometime after that, I believe. Let me just make sure I'm not misquoting myself, which I've already done today. Let me see. Yeah, Hull in 1.6. Lustrous Rusted armor stops dropping from the Plains. And Bloody Kithakor event happens, meaning that also, we'll go into GM events if people really want to talk about it. I kind of have a custom lore interpretation of how we're going to justify earthquakes and basically. Do you want me to go into that, Larry, real quick?
Sure, might as well. Yeah, absolutely.
Effectively, what we're going to do is we're going to have Drizzle Row. I don't know if anyone's familiar with the ends of Planes of Time, but Drizzle Row sends you back to Malin Starfire before you started invading the Plane of Time where the gods themselves are. She uses her magic to prevent Zabroxaruk's escape. This is known as the timeline split. This is where EQ2 becomes EQ2 and EQ1 becomes EQ1. We're going to have a third timeline. Drizzle Row is sick of you going to kill the gods repeatedly and resetting the timeline, allowing the Discord stuff to happen, and she resets you back to square one. That's classic 1.0. So you might see Drizzle Row having a heightened presence in the game. She does the earthquakes. She's going to be messing with the timeline itself because she likes to have fun. And she's going to have, say, a hand in things like Lannis Taval and Bloody Kithakor and Furiona Ve going at it. In fact, it might be able to possibly delay the events of Bloody Kithakor once we get to this. Mainly because I'd like this to be like a server effort. Mortals are, once again, being challenged more than they were in the Plane of Time. They can alter the outcome of timelines. In this timeline, she's also going to make sure that the Sleeper never truly awakens. The events of the Sleeper are repeated again and again. And because of this, you actually will have to go in the Plane of Time and stop a certain event from happening at the end of the Plane of Time in order to permanently, awake the Sleeper. And this will be a very challenging event, and I don't expect anyone to actually complete it. It's going to be more challenging than Quarm itself. So
that's incredible. I mean, I'm excited about that. Just having those kinds of ideas that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Profound, I know. That's pretty cool.
I don't like just limiting GM events to GMs pretending to be NPCs either. People who've played EverQuest 2 might remember this, but there was an event where you had the GM spires, right?
Uh-huh.
The GM spires are basically were something before the GM event for the spires, where right before Kingdom of Sky you had to build the Altarian spires to actually port yourself up to the Kingdom of Sky, meaning the Overrealm. You actually had to go to each of these places. There's a Dracoda that tried to stop you each time. This is the realm of the Dracodas up there, and the Bone Mire, and the Tenebrous Tangle, and so on and so forth, the Barren Sky. We're trying to make it so one of these events that will unlock the Nexus will have, a concerted effort with Alcaber himself to actually contribute materials. You might need some trade skillers. You might need some people to contribute, weapons or, some sort of jewels or gems to get Nexus to actually, power up. Meaning that potentially the Luclin timeline won't even start until people actually complete the GM event. Meaning that you have to actually unlock it as a, concerted effort as a team. Can you still hear me?
Oh yeah. No, I appreciate you expanding on that. No, you're good. You're good. It's awesome. Got a text message. You have to, I apologize. Let me just.
Okay. No, you got it. You got it.
Okay. We're good. All's fine. All right.
Awesome.
Let's continue on here. Let's see. Do you think that there will be a move or transition over to a new client before Kunark launches, which will be 9 months from October 1st?
I'd hope you could do it sooner than Kunark.
Okay.
I'm not going to have a committal answer to that, but
sure.
Because literally, this is like as soon as it gets enough to play, we're gonna dump it. It's gonna be on the server. I'm okay with doing things that are experimental and uncompleted, as long as they have some level of basic protection in them and can support our feature set. Sure, why not? Okay. I'm not really worried about that.
All right. This one, of course, with a little tinge of sarcasm from Osiris. What's a man got to do to get to play Beastmaster on launch? We'll just, we'll leave him hanging on that.
Oh, there is a $14.99 subscription for Daybreak's EverQuest Agnar server.
There you go. Yeah.
Which is currently in the Plains of Power. You can play Beastlord right now. There's also this very excellent server called the Alcaber Project, which basically does the same thing, which we forked from, which is in Plains of Power right now. The only trade-off is you have to sell your soul for $3.
That's yeah. Awesome.
Either of these are viable options. I prefer the Daybreak one. I actually like Agnar. I love that server.
I played a little bit on Agnar, but certainly not enough to get the full appreciation out of it. But I digress.
Yeah. We're not leaving you on red. Sorry.
There was a question about auto fire and melody. You did capture that and your thoughts around that. Let's talk a little bit. Here's a question more about you, Secrets, and your plan to manage burnout. So 3+ years is a long time to be fully managing a server and all the CSR/raid headaches that comes with it. So what are some things that you're going to do to manage burnout? Because you're drawing the line. Take healthy breaks. I think I
will literally just try and get as many people as I need so the server can run itself.
Okay.
And if I need to detach for work, which I've done already several times, y'all don't even know I do that. But I've literally just ignored y'all for 8 hours a day, every single day so far. I've interacted maybe once or twice on lunch break, but no, every single day of the week, Monday through Friday, and actually for a bit this morning too. I actually worked on some work stuff this morning just because I felt like I could. And I will literally just ignore y'all. Sorry. I want to make sure that this actually... I want to make sure that in 2 years this is still going and that people still have a chance to play on it, and beyond 2 years, honestly. Also, it's going to suck if we don't actually get the Luclin, right? That's what people are here to play. They're not here to play P99 Green 3.0.
So that's
they're here to go play. They're here to play.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No. I was just going to say, and I think I kind of talked on this at the very beginning. But the fact that I couldn't tell you the amount of times that folks in my community, but I say my P99 community, who have asked like or made comments around just jumping ahead in expansion to Luclin. And so just Project Quarm being in a very unique position to where it's going to planes of power, but the way that it's doing it is attractive to Project 1999ers to an extent, those that are curious about going a little bit further. And then of course we have the folks that are on the live side.
I call them people who are Quarm curious, but go ahead.
That's a great way of putting it. And so there's not really any sort of question that I was trying to weave in there, but just kind of adding some additional thoughts personally as far as why I think this will, I don't know where I was going with it, but it's just cool to see that this is attracting a lot of folks from just different EverQuest communities. So I'm
to be honest, it's by design. I've literally taken all of the last 15, 17 years that I've actually been involved in EverQuest and said, well, how do I make this attractive to everyone while making sure that people don't feel alienated? Well, there's three core tenets to that, really. One, make the game attractive for casual people, the people that are in your City of Mist XP group in P99 right now, for example. For people who want to challenge themselves and have already done everything. That's the second core tenet. And third is for people who like to challenge themselves and compete. You can't do that traditionally in every single server. So I literally hit the least common denominator for each one of these buckets of people. If you're not going to, if you think you have to be obligated to play a game, the game is unhealthy and addiction. So this game is designed to not be addictive. You should never feel like you're obligated to actually log in. Sure, we did that back in the day. Most of y'all are in your 40s, I assume, at this point. Some of you are in your 30s, some of you are in your 20s. All over the place for age groups. We have evolved as an MMO genre to exist beyond what we used to have to do. P99 might have, the most competitive rule set, so people might play there. People might want to play on TPS races and, FTE on Oakwin, so they might do that. But also, some people might just want to just play the game, and we have to account for that. And then some people might want to, play the hardcore challenge modes that Zade's been doing. And a lot of people actually want to play those hardcore challenge modes that Zade's been doing. I mean, like, you've seen LulzX doing a solo self-found run on Twitch, and these people, Larry, you've made an entire guild, Legacy of Vic, around these challenge modes.
Ick. I'm getting about that.
So I mean, now, by the way, you want that guild made? We can make a self-found guild, Legacy of Vic here. Right?
That's the plan. I'm just trying to figure out what the name's gonna be. So stay tuned.
You could even do. I mean, you're not gonna have Ixers on launch, right?
Right, exactly. So it's gonna be much more flexible with the race class combo. We're not gonna be the superior Ixar race.
I would say humans and barbarians.
Ooh,
that's an interesting thing. Kind of like a middle of the road mutt challenge mode.
Indeed.
Because humans are some of the most versatile starting picks.
Oh, absolutely.
They have at least 75 stats and basically everything. Barbarians will give you at least access to Shaman and Beast Lord. So that's your class.
It's doable.
So basically a human run. It would be the pride of Kinos, basically. Something like that.
We had a Wolves of the North idea for barbarians.
Wolves of the North.
I think we can include some humans into that.
Wolves of the North and the Pride of Kinos and Wolves of the North. There's gonna be like two guilds playing. The thing is, I didn't actually restrict people to one guild or one group on purpose for the self-found rule set.
Yeah.
It's mainly because I wanted people to do things like this, like make a challenge guild, like XRs only, or you can have humans and you can have barbarians working together, and those would be the two guilds. And then once chat channels come in, it's even easier to actually communicate with.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about this question around solo self-found or all the self-imposed rule sets. Are you able to undo that decision?
Nope. This is a permanent decision you make you are committed from the time you make that choice. If you die and you're hardcore, you're not going to be able to get the chance to undo that. Your character literally gets wiped, your corpse decays instantly. So that means you're lost without all your stuff from the moment that happens. You'll go back to starting skills, you'll go back to level 1. You'll have your inits, of course, for whatever race or class you're in. Your faction gets wiped. every single deed and misdeed you've done in the world is instantly reset upon dying. Past a certain level, the whole server will know that you've died too.
Yeah, what level is that? What is that?
It's 30, I believe. I think it's 30. I might put it at 20 though, or any level above 10, really.
Yeah, right. I think anything above 10 it starts to get significant. Of course, anything beyond that, just that much more dramatic. But
also, if you see a level 60 die, it's going to be very tragic.
Yeah,
like 65, especially with a haze. Is there a website? We're still working on that. There is someone working on a website. I'm hoping to get it out by launch. If not, there's the Discord. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I'll do the obligatory little spam there.
We're also going to have achievements for the first to hit the max level on each of the classes during the solo, self-found, and hardcore rule sets. Just reach out to me. It's going to be a manual process, but if you can actually, get a solo character to 50. Then I think the world should know of your accomplishment. You'll get a custom title too. So.
Okay. Well, looks like I got a bit of PTO to burn. It looks like I might have to turn this into a race. I was hoping to be casual.
I got no PTO. I'm terrified. I'm not taking PTO for this. I might take Monday.
Boy.
But that's about it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that'll be.
I got a game that needs matchmaking to come out soon. A new matchmaking revamp, so I can't really take off right now. I am literally committed to the process. So.
Yeah. Well, I believe in you for what that's worth.
I believe in you for what that's worth. You're gonna do great. It does enforce buff restrictions. Yes, it's like it has its own set of custom rule set restrictions. Just to be clear. All right. Next question.
No. So could you just briefly expand on some of the hard coded just features of those self-imposed rules? Because, for example, like you just said, buff restrictions. When you're solo, you can't group with other folks. When you're self-found, you can't pick up items off the ground, for example. I mean, anything else that you would add to just? You
must engage a creature at 100% to receive experience or loot for yourself, your group, or your raid, and deal at least 50% of the mob's health and damage to receive experience. Normal damage rules additionally apply to the target for experience credit. The NPC regenerating to 100% HP will reset this flag. Yes, there is going to be people that exploit this with aggro and hateless stuff, and I have a plan to fix that, where if you deal more aggro than mobs had damage externally, you can steal credit from a solo self-found player and the mob's corpse just goes to no one. So just keep that in mind too.
Okay.
You can't loot items from open corpses. You can't buy items from the bazaar or from other NPC merchants. You can't loot items that were handed to an NPC. You can't purchase items that aren't already on the merchant. You cannot trade with other players. You can't be buffed or healed by other players who are outside your experience credit range. This is currently experience credit divided by 2. And you can't group with players in the self-found rule set that are outside of the self-found rule set. The solo one will restrict all outside buffs and healing. Even bind wound, you can't be bound wound as a solo player.
Nice.
So then, if you
go ahead. No. Go ahead.
I was going to say, hardcore is just basically something you can add on to solo or self-found. You can do all three if you want. And when you consider someone that's playing the rule set, you'll say this player is rolling, say, the solo self-found rule set. Or if you consider yourself and it's a solo self-found hardcore, you're suddenly running solo self-found hardcore, and now when you die, you're going to die. And you will also be able to consider players to know what rule set they're running. So if you see someone and you want to ask them and invite them to a group, they're not going to feel it. You'll know what they're doing in that area, and you just kind of leave them alone.
Yeah, and that was that you. Yeah, so that was going to be a follow-up question was, one, how do you identify these folks? And it's by conning them. And then two, hardcore in its by itself is something that it doesn't limit you from grouping with others.
No. Larry, I just need 30 seconds. I need to take a quick AFK.
Yeah. Do what you got to do. I know we're super over, so yeah, cool. Go ahead. I'm just going to talk.
I'm actually... it's just I've been having to use the restroom for a bit now.
Okay, yeah, please do. Make sure you mute your mic. I mean, if you want. All right. So, hey, just to let y'all out there know, first off, thank you for being here. We are in the thick of it for this Q&A session with Secrets. Just to give y'all a little bit of an idea of where we are with these Q&As, with the questions at least. We are about halfway through. Some of these, it looks like we've touched on, so we will probably be able to skip them. But feel free to continue to submit your questions. If we can get to them, great. Have about, I don't really have a hard stop, but I have a soft stop. Does that make any sense? Probably here in about 20 or 30 minutes. I'll have some IRL things happening. So let's see. Okay, just making sure that we are good there. If you haven't already joined the Quarm Discord, thank you, Swish, for posting a link to that. That's going to be the end all be all for all information that is current, accurate, and recent, up to date, so on and so forth. So make sure you go there. Plus, it's an amazing community of folks that has built up over there. So definitely be a part of that. And welcome back, Secrets.
Thank you.
All right.
Let's see. Where's the next question? Love to answer this.
Let's get that up. Where am I here? Real quickly, let's touch on legacy items. There is a point of a question for clarification. You said only one legacy item per character. Does that mean you cannot have J Boots and Mana Stone?
No, it means that for that one specific item, you won't be able to loot it again.
Okay. So only one Mana Stone, only one pair of J Boots. J Boots will be in launch and dropping in Najina. Is that correct?
Yeah, on Drelsna.
On Drelsna. Fantastic. Okay. Let's see here. Okay, we're missing a little bit of context, but I think we can pick it up pretty quickly here. There was a question that came through a while back. Will the no crazy bottlenecks mindset apply to things like Pained Soul?
Yes. Any sort of respawn time, low percentage chance to complete something that's critical, like a raid quest or an epic quest. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, sure.
Had to plug my headset in. Anything that basically changes it from a inconvenience to something that's just based on waiting. Like, basically, it's okay that someone's at your camp, right? For, I don't know, like someone's already camping Guys of the Deceiver, or they're camping Ghoul Lord or something like that, trying to get an item. That's understandable. You just wait till they're gone. But something like Pain Soul, where potentially people are lined up, looks like an exclusive club to get in with how far the line back goes. Anything that basically would result in a slash list on P99 is generally going to be lightened in some way. I have fond memories, like I said earlier, of something like Agnar, where there were people picking up ground spawns once every hour when they would respawn or whatnot. I think that's ridiculous. You have to wait several weeks to even get a raid force into VP, and it's already hell to get into VP to begin with, so why even bother? Just make it easier. People will suffer. You don't have to wait 10 plus hours for an Enchanter epic mob only for it to be stolen. You don't miss sitting at Verena Tomb and then some chuckle person just comes up to you and they steal it just randomly. That's rude.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, the average age of an EverQuester these days is, we're in our 40s and beyond.
They'll fall asleep before they actually tag it,
It's not good for the health, right? I mean, come on, we should be doing good work out there. All right, reduced dot damage while moving, will it be a thing?
No, we're not even going to recreate that, even for the era. It was a mistake. Sony admitted as such at the time of the era. And it won't be kept in. You know why? Because it's just not fun.
Okay.
It's just not fun.
It works for me. Let's see. I think we talked about Headshot. Is Headshot AA going to be the nerfed version or the original version in Planes of Power?
I think it's going to be whatever's on TAC Project. It's actually not as effective as people think. Headshot was only an issue on live because they had revamped how the AA itself functions. It's basically a finisher for trivial mobs at that point, right? It's like finishing blow or whatever, but it's just a rage attack. It's going to work like it did on 2002, which doesn't work the way people remember it. Headshot only became a problem once you could clear out deep dark blue mobs and just instantly kill them because they rebalance it in a way that allowed for that. So it's not going to be a problem, even if I don't remember how the mechanic works offhand. I just know that it's not a problem on TAC-P right now, and it won't be a problem here as such. So,
got it. All right. What if it is? Oh, this is okay. We lost some context here since it's been a while. So class not going to be on launch like the Beastmaster. If the name that they want is on a Beastmaster, will it still be reserved?
No, we're clearing out name reservations after 30 days. So if you want a name reservation post-launch, take it as soon as the server comes up. You can always delete the character and remake it. And it's on your account till, if it's level 1. If you have a level 1 character on your account, all the way into Luclin, we're not going to wipe that name. So reserve it in the beta. You keep that on your account. And then you get your furry friend's proper name by the time Luclin comes around in 2 years, provided you keep it on your account.
Perfect. So. Will cycle nearest NPC/PC keybinds be available?
I actually don't know if they're going to be in the evolution client or not. We can always add it in. Okay. I know someone had actually made the functionality for a client. I didn't test it. I didn't actually put it in as a keybind. That's going to be a lot of work. Worst comes to worst, evolution has it, and if evolution doesn't have it, then we'll make one. We have the technology. It just takes time.
We have the technology. All right. You kind of you did talk about just PvP. Your thoughts on that, special events and whatnot. Anything like a best of the best that you anticipate?
Why not? I think that's good. That's one of the most important ways to get a title in the game, right?
Heck yeah, it is. And let me follow up real quick.
You casting?
No, if I can, that'd be great. Titles.
We'll be in touch. Titles, yes, they're going to be just for. So actually, I don't know if you all know this, but Luclin actually has titles. Currently, my game character has Duchess Secrets because I'm a paladin past a certain level. If you spend AAs, you'll actually get the prefix. For suffix, they're going to be reserved for events or special occasions. You could get like the Undying as a title for the first 50, hardcore, that sort of thing. Yeah, we can add those in. They're just going to be reserved for events.
Yeah. Okay, that works. Let's see. Rule sets on Earthquake. And will there be a small chance of PvP?
I wanted to do that one, and generally what we're going to do for the PvP quakes is those will be, let's say we had a bad week, or let's say everyone behaved for that week, and one in one extreme or the other, and people are foaming at the mouth to PvP each other at a raid target. Then we might just say this Earthquake might be a PvP one. We can trigger that manually.
Oh, man.
In fact, as of the last patch, I added a Quake command so we can trigger one manually because we didn't have that, and it's close to launch. I need to have that. We don't have the PvP rule set hooked up. I'd have to do that manually, and then once it's over, I'd have to set PvP to false if you already had PvP. Separately, we'd have to check the people that wanted PvP, and it's a whole mess.
So just an ignorant question, but make sure guild PvP that you're talking about equal.
No guild war.
No guild war. Got it. Okay.
The reason why we're not doing a guild war, and no, Alia, just to make sure, you're not going to be able to give people terrible titles at whim. We're taking this seriously, unfortunately. But if you want terrible titles on your character, you can hop over to Chainbreaker, which is still running, by the way, you can go play there, and you will receive complimentary of Alia, myself, or Dingus, or Saitoko. You can receive a free custom title of nonsense that just yours. It's yours. You can have it. So that's free. The ducks at the pond are free. You can just take them.
You could. I want to selfishly back up a little bit and
sure.
Call out
something
that Brown Butcher mentioned, and it was something actually I wanted to ask you earlier. So selfishly, I'm going to take the opportunity now. Brown Butcher mentioned something about gold nameplates for hardcore max level characters. The flexibility, the ability to have different colored nameplates. It's there. Okay.
I mean, think about it. It's there, but will I do it? That's another question.
Sure.
If you ever see Rogan in game on P99,
yeah, he has his little green
he has this little rainbow nameplate. Actually, it goes through random colors. It's almost like seizure inducing. But yes, you can actually set custom nameplates that function like that, and I intend to recreate the functionality. I have no problem doing that, actually. And I think it would be fun.
I think so too. Okay. I'm acting like I'd actually stand a chance at having a colored nameplate, but hey, a man can dream. So let's talk about going back the context around the legacy camps, mana stone, 1 per player, 50% drop rate, 50% spawn rate, so on and so forth. Wouldn't there be, this is the question, wouldn't there be too many mana stones in the world and change the balance / power spike of classes and how things get played out in the long term? Question mark.
Suppose so. In the long term, it might mean there's more mana stones, but that's also going to be the case in both planes of power, right?
Yeah.
So at most you'll have, and even in P99 where this was a concern, they would still you could still get traded a mana stone right now by anyone and just forever change the power of that one character. In fact, by having them more prevalent, it doesn't make it as exclusive, which also reduces the power, but eventually there's going to be a point in time where people don't have the ability to get them anymore. At least until post Planes of Power content. So
right.
It's just going to be something where, just like P99, there might be more of them, but you still might not have a chance at them if you never played in the first 3 months. So
right.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Yes or no? Stray flock. Will that ever be a thing?
Stray flock? What do you mean?
So if you use your arrow keys up and right to the arrow keys, press enter to open up chat.
That's already a thing. Not only that, but I showed it on stream the other day.
Is that like a new development, or has it always been that way?
No, it's always been that way. Even in like Trilogy, that's always been the way.
Wow.
But you can auto circle on bards because Celos is actually high enough with AAs and such to do an auto circle where the mob can't hit you, where you hit W and D and you hit enter and you run around in a circle.
Yeah.
But because we actually have pathing working properly, you don't even have to steer. It just does it for you.
Oh my gosh. It looks like I'm rolling bard. That's been settled. Okay.
It works at higher run speeds. It won't work at level 1.
Got it. Okay.
So it will actually work. I mean, if you look at what's their name? I played it on stream the other night, but there's Mitchy Poo from Live had a stunt bard video where they would go into Gunthak and they would, press W and D, you press enter, and then you run around in a circle. They're in Dulac doing the same thing. So it's like, yeah.
Nice. All right. Moving on. Let's see. Any chance that we can get out of era race / class combos like Halfling Ranger, Gnome Shadow Knight?
Aren't those in era? So you'll get them in, Luclin.
You're right. Yeah, I'm wondering if the question
earlier,
meant,
no,
not earlier than that.
No, they are considered abominations as they are. Fun fact: P99 actually had those. If you managed to create one early on in their development, they'd be in hell, which was just the EverQuest tutorial zone with CT who would DT them when they first logged in.
Oh, that's fantastic.
I don't think I don't know if they ever kept that up, but
yeah.
For all the invalid race class combinations on P99 near launch. That's what was the plan. I don't know if they actually went through on it, but
okay.
It was funny. You'd see Inruk, Kazakh Thul, Tunar, and everyone just all in a small circle around you. You'd get DT'd and you'd disconnect.
That's great. I like that. There was a follow-up question around Rangers auto attack thing in the FAQ post. Wasn't quite understood. I don't know if you expanded on this earlier.
I did. It's auto fire. The auto fire will basically be available. Okay. Yeah.
Excellent. What is the reason for not supporting or developing Stone UI more for classic era?
To mainly do the code quality of that UI. If I had the actual source code to EverQuest, I would have been able to fix it.
That's fair.
But effectively, Kick and Line can actually, if he wants to ever elaborate on this, but effectively the process functions for these functions are. Normally, in modern code development, you'd make a subfunction. If a function proved to effectively be too big, you would make a common routine that would, do something. The entire UI is hard-coded via set rect calls, and that would mean that you'd have to do a lot of manual math, manual positioning.
Mm-hmm.
You'd basically, to even work on, non-classic resolutions like they are right now,
yeah,
they're all classic resolutions. You can only use 1600 by 900 at most, I think, or something along that lines. But the reason why that's not possible is because they're just literally hard coded. If you really wanted those to actually show up, you're going to have to go in there. You're going to have to do all the work. If you want to do the work yourself, like the DLL is open source, go for it. Be my guest.
Yeah.
The reason why we're not supporting it is also the game client crashes often with the old UI. And this is not something we're really willing to put effort in resolving when we're already moving off this client to begin with.
Sure. Right.
Even back when we weren't, I'm not putting effort because it's a novelty. Zaid will use it on his stream. I love Zaid for using that client, for actually putting up the brain power and effort to tolerate it. So
yeah, for sure. All right. Let's see here. Let me just check. There's one with commas. Let me see if I can read it real fast.
Comma chameleons.
Comma chameleons. That's right. Dealing with them.
Yeah.
All right. We'll maybe just skip that one. Let's see. There's a request or a question asking around. I think you touched on. Oh, this is a really long one. Let me make sure it's safe. I'll review that. Let's go to the next one, and then I'll bump back to this one if it's appropriate. When will the evolution client be implemented?
I think I just answered this one not too long ago.
Yeah.
But just to reiterate, the answer is when it's done.
When it's done.
It will be when it's in progress and when it can actually continue happening. It will just be implemented. People can log in. It might not work that well. You might fall through walls. You might have things displaying wrong, but we're going to get it in.
Yeah.
I'm not going to prevent people from... I'm embracing the unfinished client stuff. If people don't want to, ever use merchants for a little bit till we get merchants working on the client, that'd be my guess. If they want to log in and just play around with the mouse, would be my guess. I'm not really worried about that. As long as we can, fix things like obvious cheating in the client, then we can enable it as a client. So.
Yep. I think this next one's a good one. How can people get involved in supporting the project, either technical skills or financially?
Technical skills. The entire project is open source. You can go to github.com/secretsofthep/EQMacMU, and that will contain the repository that's forked off of the Alcabr project. You can contribute there, which also has our database. We will be dumping the database twice monthly. This will allow us to actually have people auditing and making sure things are actually accurate. There's been a lot of discussion between players, a lot of people misremembering things, a lot of people remembering things that we didn't even catch. So this has actually helped the parent project, which is the Alcabr project. Elraz, Torvin, and Solar have been hard at work making sure the early game content that really didn't see much love on TAC project actually gets corrected. And the TAC project player base has been very happy about that too.
Nice. All right. And then, financially, how can we support?
Financially, you can just follow me on Twitch, subscribe on Twitch, or there's a happy cat on the very bottom of Twitch, which has my Streamlabs tip. Anytime I'm streaming, you can financially contribute to me. Please note that this won't actually cover any server costs. They're already covered. If you enjoy the time I spend on the server and you want to actually help out, I don't mind taking your money. You won't get anything in return. I'm planning on moving offline, within the next 6 to 10 months. It would move up the timeline, basically. Me and my Nestate would greatly appreciate that.
Nice.
That's literally the only thing it would go to. There's not going to make anything come out quicker. You're not going to get anything in game for it. We're not doing things like, shady private server things. You're not going to get a mana stone for it.
Yeah.
You're not gonna get any 10 slot bags or anything like that. No, I actually am totally against that.
Good.
Not just because of the moral aspect of Daybreak, but because I don't believe that would actually emulate the era accurately. This is back in the day when we made fun of people for buying things on eBay. People would would buy characters or platinum. IGE had a rough history with this game, if you remember. The Yantis, RPG Exploiters, ARC, and then you have people like Steve Bannon who ended up, if you Google who Steve Bannon is, one of the first things they ever did was take over from Yantis for IGE.com. Yep. People don't remember that, but I know exactly who these people are, and I remember their origins, and I never forget.
Yep, I remember that. All right, so I don't know if you heard it earlier when you stepped away. I have a soft stop point here, probably in the next 10 minutes. So we're gonna
let's wrap up.
Yeah, we'll quick hit a few more if you're okay with that, and then we'll wrap up here in about 10 or sooner depending.
Yeah, rapid fire questions. Let's go. I'll keep these answers short.
For sure. Okay. How pets are going to work on Quarm, stealing EXP, so you got to do at least 50% of the damage. Are there any other mechanics behind pets other than making sure you have damage?
They won't actually aggro you. Pets will not aggro mobs. When you're walking past with pets, they're not going to aggro mobs. If you're in a group and your pet's stealing experience, they will be weighted as if they were a group member of equal level. If you have 7 people in the group and you have a pet stealing 6 people in a group and a pet steals XP, they will count as a 7th group member and take their share of the XP.
All right, excellent. Preferred form for reporting other players for breaking terms of service, screenshots in the Discord, or where there'll be an in-game command. Discord is
petition will put you to Discord.
Yeah.
And that'll be it.
All right. Can town guards be charmed? Couldn't charm them in beta, so that is a no.
They also have high MR to begin with for the ones that aren't the newbie guards.
Okay. Yeah. Yep. Any love for the Euro players? 3 p.m. Eastern time release is like 9 p.m. Shoot, that's prime time gaming right there. But I don't know.
That's when you want it. No, I totally get it. But no, we have to pick a time. We got to launch. Do you want to wait till the next day to log in? Because I can do that. No, we just have to pick a time. It's literally picked around the fact that I'm going to be up and awake to do the launch then. So I'm going to literally plan my whole day around that on Sunday. So.
Oh yeah. Is there talk about seasonal servers with the legacy server characters will retire to?
So we're going to do something like Green 99 had planned to, except we're just dumping the items on from this recycling server to the legacy server. So instead of dumping the characters, P99 ran into the issue where Green became its own server. We're going to just avoid that entirely.
Yeah.
We're going to actually just remove all the characters, reset, recycle, move it to other characters on the same account ID. You can be able to go to an NPC in game. You'll be able to claim the items you got from that last iteration on a character of either the same race, class, or deity, and all of the basically tradables like Madistone will be able to be claimed on any character. So.
Okay. Nice. Gosh, I can't remember if you touched on this, but going back to kind of the support question, and are you going to be adding any more GMs or CSRs?
We're going to staff up, staff down as needed.
Okay.
I'm going to try to keep it small. I don't have a CSR policy. I actually have to make it this week. I'm going to have an all-hands meeting with our CSRs who will be in Discord. I'm going to try and protect their identity as much as possible.
Sure.
Some of them don't want to actually be known. I'd rather them just do the job and just that's it. I'm not going to have them, parading around in game too much. They can do that if they want, but I'd rather people get. It's not going to be like friendly neighborhood Spider-Man stuff where they see a GM and oh look, it's Spider-Man. No, it's going to be. Maze is not on the team, just to be clear. Maze had stepped out, doesn't want to actually do anything EverQuest related, which is fine. Maze is creature of his own. He's got a kid. When you start having kids and you start trying to do too much at once, that kid takes priority. I love Maze just because he's able to separate the two.
Yeah.
It's literally when you start becoming an adult, you need to make decisions like that for your kid. And I respect that fully.
Absolutely. Meanwhile, I'm just trying to get my kids to play EverQuest so I can keep the addiction going, But
me and Elia will curb CSR abuse, just to be clear. But we will just as players are held to our own standards, CSRs will be held to our own standards. So we don't want corruption or abuse, and if we find that, they're gone. Sure, that's going to mean that they might do they might go to the subreddit and post a bunch of logs from the CSRs stuff. It's going to happen. I just assume that anything I post in my Discord will eventually become public or public knowledge in some way. Yeah. If you keep a consistent persona throughout the whole thing, you don't have much to worry about. I'm sure people are going to accuse me of being Plat Lord or whatever they do on P99 to Rogan and Nilbog, but that's inevitable. You can't stop people from doing this. At the end of the day, people are just insane. I'm insane. I'd hope that me being insane and people being insane are kind of kindred spirits. I've always stood up for the riffraff in some way. So.
Yep, absolutely. Will the whole be available at launch?
No, I don't believe so. What timeline did I put that on? It's in the Discord. Anyway, just try to get through the questions.
Yeah, for sure. Will clickies be rechargeable in pre-nerf state when compared to Project 1999?
Depends on the clicky. We're putting a 5-second cast time on like Stinging Warts because they're overpowered. We're removing the click for Ivander's Hoop. We're removing the Redwood Wand and Icebone Wand clickies just entirely. They're too broken. And that's pretty much it. Like anything that's instantly going to cause a raid mob to get gibbed, just expect it not to be there. We'll nerf them as needed. Out of era stuff, we'll nerf as needed and remove from players' inventories retroactively on next login. Don't really have to worry about that. Every 2 weeks we'll be patching in those, so don't worry.
Okay. Will dot damage be shown, presumably in chat or in logs? Will there be any scaling/stacking tweaks? I think you talked.
We're going to keep the Planes of Power scaling and stack, or rather stacking spell damage, etc. Whatever was in for Planes of Power on TAC-P will be in here. As for things like showing dot damage, we can add that later. It's just a server message piped to the client. My concern would be that we don't have the actual filter, so we'd have to have a way for them to be filtered. But other than that, I'm fine with it. I mean, let's do it. I mean, if people really want that in, which it's really useful to know when the next tick is, and the message get GITA parsers, and parse stuff.
Right.
People should be able to get that. I don't see why not.
Awesome. There's 2 questions around this actually, back to back. Can we use software to send the contents of the clipboard, such for doing things such as pasting chat or text in game?
Could add that later. Again, that's just client work. I'd have to do it. Not opposed to it. There's no problems with doing it. Just means some people can talk about someone's someone's wife repeatedly in chat quicker. I don't know. We all know the reference.
Indeed. The list of legacy items. I think I might have this one: J Boots, Ring of the Dead, Mana Stone at launch. What am I missing? One?
Yeah, Rubicite, Mana Stone, Lustrous Reset.
That's right.
Ring of the Dead. We're gonna have. I'm gonna try and get the Thick Stagger in before launch. Might be in the patch after launch. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So.
Nice. Okay. Let's see here. We have a couple more. By a couple, I mean about 10 more. Let's see if we can get it. 5 minutes.
Let's go.
Some of these are skippable. Will the Kunark items also have a 50% drop rate like the Fungi Staff? And we're talking about Kunark legacy items.
They'll also have like the pre and post nerf stat.
Yeah.
They were actually separate items when they nerfed them to begin with, so yeah, they'll be in.
And the legacy item rules will still apply to all eras.
Correct.
Throughout it's persistent.
Meaning that you might need need to be 55 or 60 for a pre-nerf fungi or something like that. So.
Okay. Would it be within terms of service for Quarm to have a graphics overhaul mod similar to what was done for P99? So texture package.
I covered this. There's already a TAC P texture pack.
Yes.
Like I said earlier in the interview, there is also. I'd have no problems people modifying brand skeletons. What I take issue with is people like Salty, who on Rise of Zek made a Stairway to Heaven in Vishan's Peak. I will be actively monitoring for things like that. So it'll be easier to. It would be very easy to tell. And Salty, you know exactly what you did, so don't worry.
Oh boy. All right. Will gnomes be able to use their most prized skill of being able to see through walls?
That's client, so no.
Yes. Oh no.
That was a titanium and DX9 change that they did. And it was technically a bug.
Yeah, no, I mean, for sure.
I think it might work in some ways, but I actually don't remember. I'm looking at a wall. I can't see through it right now.
Oh, pack it up. I'm not rolling gnome after all. Oh man. All right. Well, that helps. I'm kind of joking. Let's see, whether there'll be a way for a race change. I'm assuming that's no.
No. How would you even handle it? A lot of platinum.
Yeah,
no, we're not doing that.
Yeah, none of that.
XR, you want an XR Necro or a Monk? Go re-level it.
There you go. Absolutely. I think you've answered this just in a different question. Will there be a keybind open to open all of your bags at the same time? That's actually
in already. You just have to be clever about how you set it up. There's a toggle bag 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Set them to the same hot button. That'll work.
Pro tip. I like it.
Pro tip. There you go.
Okay. Will there be a title for solo self-found? I know you mentioned hardcore. I think you mentioned all of the playstyles having something special, or at least an announcement, an achievement at level 16.
Announcement and an achievement, sure.
Okay.
I have no problem doing that. Yeah.
Okay.
2 minutes. Let's get through it.
2 minutes. Almost there. Can you give away a droppable legacy item and get another one on the same character? No. You can trade it away, but you can't get another one on that character. Or that account.
This is just to prevent abuse. No, it's just the character. If you just make a new character, get it to 30 or whatever the requirement is, then you can get it. It's fine.
All right. This is one I actually wanted to talk about. Kind of, maybe not directly in the question that you see. Soulbinder NPCs in launch, and I'll add a little bit more. So Luclin on that one. And then I thought I heard originally that Planes of Knowledge would be in, but that's no longer a thing.
Nope. That's
thing.
no longer a thing. Someone on P99 really needs to go change the post. I have to contact like Nilbog to actually update the post, so I'm going to do that eventually. Same with Fires of Heaven. I don't know if they'll actually do that. I mean, I'll ask both of our administrators, but we'll see.
Okay. There's commas in that one, so I can't read it. I apologize. Dot stacking, we've talked on that. Legacy items, talked on that. Sorry, I'm just getting through these. Is the Earth Staff sniping / Monopoly going to be allowed? Gosh, you probably.
What do you mean? What is that? Actually, I don't actually know what that is.
I'm not 100% sure, or I guess I know how it was.
I'm just going to answer this as a generality. Any sort of bottleneck will be tried to be resolved. You won't be able to snipe mobs if you're in rotation, right? So if the mob's in rotation and you're in rotation and you're trying to get a Earth Staff or something like that, if we're talking about something where there's an instant clicky to get engagement, there's only going to be quakes. There's not going to be a people lined up on a zone before that to engage something. And personally, I don't care to really entertain that anything. Yeah. Fillable mob in the plane to hate. Then if you're not in plane to hate rotation, I'm going to flag it as a raid mob. And if you're out of rotation, I'll just kick you out of there. Plane of hate will basically be rotation only, basically.
Okay.
If you're not in there.
Yeah.
Fillable with one group, yeah.
Okay, perfect.
But it's still considered a raid mob and would follow raid rules.
Okay.
So join a guild, you get in rotation.
Another common sense isn't too common, but let's make it a little bit clear here. What are the rules for character names?
You get a name reservation, but beyond that, in terms of actual names, don't be vulgar. If it's going to be obvious for just follow the rules as general guideline, not just with don't make sexual content in your names. Don't make hate speech in your name. Keep that away. If you don't want your kids seeing it, don't put it there. So
fair enough. All right, we're at 310. Last one, and those of you who have questions submitted, there's probably like 9 or 10 of them that we won't get to. Unfortunately, I apologize. I'll send them over to you, Secrets, and then if I can reach out to the folks directly or DM them on Twitch, letting them know the answer if that's cool. But there is a question about, oh gosh, I lost it. I was just, IP exemptions and how that will work.
You're going to go into the Discord as it stands, log into the beta before launch. You have till another 4 hours to do this on each account, submit a petition, and then you can handle that. I'll get it to it before launch. If you don't submit it in time and you haven't logged into the beta, basically after 8 p.m. if you haven't really logged into the beta, there's no way I can help you until launch. The account IDs aren't known to me. So make sure you get that in, log into the beta today. And if you miss out on it, then post-launch, I'm going to have to process those. I'm sorry.
All right. Secrets.
And yes, just to be clear, one more thing.
Sure.
Yes, you can make Mikey the Bard. You can make those funny names. Just make sure they're tasteful. Bad Dragon is not allowed, but Mikey the Bold is probably fine. I don't really care if they're surname titles. That was a Daybreak high fantasy thing. We have people that don't play this game for high fantasy. That's kind of the nature of 2023, so we won't police that. All right, awesome. Anyway.
Awesome. And yes, awesome indeed. You are awesome, Secrets. We've taken 2 hours and 12 minutes out of your day today, and I'll
never get it back either.
You won't get it back, but I hope it was time well spent, because got to learn a lot about this new Project Quarm that launches October 1st, 2 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. Eastern. So you can do the time conversion from there. And I'm looking forward to it. One more thing, actually, as someone did a straw poll earlier, and I thought it was pretty intriguing to see some of the classes that people are planning on playing. I wish I had an easy way of sharing. Oh, I guess I do. Oh, let me do this real quick.
Oh yeah, let me see this results. I'm actually curious. Yeah. I haven't clicked on it yet.
Take a look at this. Right now, I just refreshed it. Cleric is looking like it's going to be here. Let me remove some things here. Cleric is the top one. 13 votes going for Cleric, followed by Enchanter, Druid, Shaman,
Holy
Ranger.
crap.
I mean, you see this.
I'm surprised Warrior's higher than Magician right now.
Right? Like, this is intriguing.
Like Magician, yeah, this is wild. I mean, people want to play something they've never played before, and that's kind of what I intended the server to be. So that's wild. More power to you for doing Druids. I'm surprised there's only 5 votes for Wizard, because or actually, I'm surprised there is 5 votes. Wizard and Warrior are some of the worst classes to roll in Classic.
Right. It's an uphill battle for sure.
That's fast. And I'm also surprised Rogue, one of the most powerful classes in Classic right now, is down there at 2 votes. They scale really well with gear in Classic, so don't count Rogue out.
I know. I'm thinking about rolling a mage. So I plan on streaming later tonight, and I want to figure out what I'm going to be playing. And so
what's also fascinating is Fine Fleet won't be into launch. That's actually Kunark stuff. So y'all are going to have to go farm the Mithril BP and Soldung B and stuff.
Oh yeah. Oh man, this is very interesting. Well, hey, yeah, keep those polls. I'm intrigued to see how this continues to evolve. So feel free to continue to talk through that. Let me get this scene back over here. Okay, cool. All right. Well, Secrets, thank you so much for the time. Y'all know where to find Secrets. If you haven't joined the Project Quarm Discord, Swish just posted it in chat. Please join there. That's going to be your direct line to all things that are happening with this amazing project. Secrets.
Remember to go catch it out on Larry's YouTube channel. He's not just got a Twitch. This will be uploaded following this on Larry's YouTube channel. I'm very happy that someone's actually saving this interview this time.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. That's a good reminder because it will be getting uploaded. I'm going to start downloading it as soon as we're done here and get it uploaded here within the hour. So be on the lookout. Thank you, Secrets. Have a great rest of your day. For the rest of you, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you later tonight. Have a good one. Bye.
You too. Take care. Bye.